Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family. I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
No, Matt, I feel like we should have like a themed intro for this week's show, just because I'm feeling sharky. I don't know. I have no idea where I was going with that, but
little under today, Ernesto. Is that what it is?
Not my best. That was not my best.
It's all right. It's okay. This week is an interesting one. We're going to be diving into our foreign film of the month, which is the film that was talked about a lot. I don't know if it hit your feed, but it definitely hit mine. And when it came out about last month or so, it was the talk on Netflix, and I was like, we have to review it. Everyone's talking about it, and that film is Under Paris, the 2024 French film. I read that it was the Jaws of Paris, and I was like, okay. And then I watched it, and then I can definitely say it is not the Jaws of Paris. I don't know if you agree with me on that. I think it's...
Matt, I don't know what you're talking about. This is the best movie this summer. I can't wait. I can't wait to just break this movie down, just
scene by scene.
No, frame by frame.
Frame by frame.
I want to enjoy it in all of its glory.
Yeah, this kind of like I said, it swept over Netflix. It was number one within the first week or two. It had 40 million streams on it. So it was definitely, a lot of people were talking about it. It felt right that when we did our next foreign film, it would be this one. And I think we're gonna have a very interesting conversation like we typically do every week. But this one's, I don't know, it could be a fun one. We'll see.
It'll be fun.
We'll see.
We're gonna make it fun.
Yeah, we're definitely going to make it fun. That's for sure. But before we dive into our spoiler review of the week, as well as for those keeping up, we are going to be continuing our weekly watch of The Boys, which just reached its season finale. So we're going to be talking about the last 2 episodes of The Boys, as well as The House of the Dragon, which we are going to be talking about episode 5 and 6 since our last record. So a lot to look forward to. But before we even get to that, we have so much show here, Ernesto. So much show to talk about. So many things to talk about. We're going to be diving into some entertainment news. And it's been a while. I feel like we've been doing these once a month now.
I know.
The entertainment news. I feel like it's just a culmination of it's almost like a monthly roundup of all the news. But I will say that it for the month of May, the month of July, it has been pretty slow when it comes to the news. That's for sure. But the first thing I want to talk about is the Emmy Awards, the Primetime Emmy Awards. They have been announced, and we're going to go over some of the big nominations that were, for some of the categories. Like I said, the Television Academy has announced the nominees for the 76th Primetime Emmy Awards, and we're going to go over the top 3 right now. For Outstanding Drama Series, we have The Crown, Fallout, The Gilded Age, The Morning Show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Shogun, Dark Horses, and Three Body Problem. I think one of the big things that I found interesting with these nominations is that Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Shogun, which were prompted as limited series, I believe, are obviously getting second seasons. So now they were put in the drama category, not the limited series category. But Ernesto, before we dive into the other nominations, what about those? You've seen a few of them.
I mean, it's fantastic that Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It was kind of a surprise. When it dropped, we talked about how much we loved it. It was definitely one of my highlights for shows coming out through the beginning of the year. I think that I'm here for it. The one that kind of surprises me is Three Body Problem, just because I feel like the reviews were mostly positive, but like overall kind of mixed.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. And having watched it myself, I did really enjoy it, but it definitely didn't feel like it was like up for any awards. So maybe we were, wrong. That could have been the sleeper hit in the for the nominations. I know Dark Horses has been a favorite for some people for quite some time. So I guess finally they're getting their due. And then we have some returnings, like we have The Crown and the Guild. I believe the Gilded Age was also nominated once before, as well as the morning show. I am very, very excited that Fallout has made it on the nomination list. I think it was a well-deserved series. Probably to this day, still one of the best series I've seen so far this year.
Best video game adaptation, to date.
For sure. And then we also have Shogun, who I think it's going to sweep. That's just me. The show looks beautiful. Yeah. The story is so solid. I don't know if you have a chance to see it yet, Ernesto.
It's going to be my next watch. I'm going to it's kind of nice when the Emmys come out, cuz then it's like sometimes I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did get some of that stuff." But then like the ones that I miss, it's like, "Oh, well I know that I missed this one." But now it's like, "Well, now I have an even bigger reason to try to catch it." Yeah, especially for Shogun. Yeah. You were speaking such high praise of it. I don't think I've heard of I'd have to look into what the Gilded Age is.
Yeah, I feel like it's a High Valerian show. I could be absolutely wrong, but that's what I get from it, at least from the post.
Looks like it's an HBO TV series. Historical drama created and written by Julian Fellows for HBO. It's set during the Gilded Age, the boom years of the 1880s. In New York City, announced in 2018 for NBC, and then in 2019 it moved to HBO. So that's interesting. First season was in 2022. Yeah, it's a historical drama. So I guess like late 1800s in New York City.
Yeah.
All right.
Looks like the second season was nominated, and also it's kind of interesting, especially when we go into our comedies. It's like, because I feel like the Emmys are always a year behind, it's not typically its current season. It's the season before that's being nominated, because the cutoff is at an awkward time. But for some of these shows, obviously like Shogun, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Three Body Problem, and Fallout, those were all released earlier this year, so they were able to hit that cutoff. But also, that's 4 brand new shows getting nominated, which I feel like it's kind of unheard of for like 4 new shows to come out within the last year to also be on the top for best drama, and is also competing with the finale of The Crown, the latest season of the morning show, season 2 of the Gilded Age, as we just found out, and I believe that's either season 2 or 3 of Dark Horses. So a lot of interesting stuff. I do like the roundup here, and honestly, I'll be happy with mostly any one of those to win. I feel like there's a front runner though, but I am happy with this lineup. I'm not mad at it whatsoever.
Same.
For Outstanding Comedy Series, we have Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Hacks, Only Murderers in the Building, Palm Royale, Reservation Dogs, and What We Do in the Shadows. I believe for 2 of these shows, actually 3 of these shows, are being nominated for their season finale. I believe it's the Curb Your Enthusiasm season finale, Reservations Dogs season finale, and didn't What We Do in the Shadows end as well?
Yeah, this is series end for it, I believe.
Yeah, so for 3 shows, it's the series finale for all 3 of those shows. So at least they got the nom if they don't win, because I don't think it will. Because let's be honest, I have a feeling it's gonna be The Bear.
Well, that's obviously what we think.
Yeah,
we're biased, but I think a lot of people are. The show is just too good. It's just too good. We still haven't finished it yet. We still have the penultimate and the finale.
The last 2.
Yeah. The most important ones.
Well, what's crazy is that, like I said, The Bear, it's for season 2. It's not even for season 3 that it's being nominated for, and that was the better season of out of the 3 seasons so far. And it was so technically when it swept last year, it was from season 1 because the Emmys were delayed because of the actors and writers strike. So they had delayed award ceremony for the Emmys, and then now we're coming over here, and now these are for its previous seasons. And so I believe the same goes for Hacks. I believe it's not the one that just dropped. I believe it's the one that came out last year. So it's kind of confusing a little bit because you just finished, you just caught up with the season, but the nominations are for the previous season. But anyway, season 2 was definitely that was peak The Bear for me. And I feel like it's going to sweep. But it's nice to see Abbott Elementary on there. It's nice to see Hacks on there. I feel like Only Murders in the Building has just been getting arbitrary nominations because I don't really see people talking about it. And it's nice to see Palm Royale get some love in there as well. I didn't really think it was going to be a comedy, but here we are. But yeah, I'm also okay with this. I feel like The Bear is probably going to sweep again this year, but who knows? We might be
surprised.
Taken off guard. Might be surprised. And lastly, for outstanding limited series, we have Baby Reindeer, Fargo, Lessons in Chemistry, Ripley, and True Detective Night Country. A lot of people have been raving about the latest season of True Detective. I kind of fell off. I never really got back on after the first season, but a lot of people loved this new season of True Detective. I believe that we are just biased off of Baby Reindeer. That was an incredible limited series, and I feel like it's the front runner. Fargo always gets some love around this category. Lessons in Chemistry, starring Brie Larson, I heard a lot of good things about as well. And then Ripley, I feel like people call Ripley a slow burn, but it was also like a very high character-driven story, so a lot of love around there as well. But yeah, I believe as far as limited series goes, I think it's only Baby Reindeer for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see True Detective because I feel like I haven't seen the first season, but I mean, people talk about it as like one of the greatest seasons of television ever made. That it's just that it's that good. So I'm curious to see what this follow-up, because this isn't the second season. I believe this is like the third or fourth season of this.
It's the fourth season, yeah. But it's an anthology series, so each season takes place with a different pair of detectives and go off. And a lot of people really led into this one. And I also find interesting that it is since it is an anthology series, it fits under the limited series category. But also going back a little bit to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they said there was going to be an anthology series, and that's what we talked about. But it got nominated for a drama instead, so. Maybe.
Well, I can see that.
Not anthology after all.
Well, I can see that as because Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you're in the world of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So the world itself is not an anthology, but the stories throughout the season could be an anthology. Whereas this is like each story is, from what I understand, they're not connected at all. Each season is its own self-contained thing, but they're not like in the same universe. If that makes any sense. That's how I could see they could justify getting around that.
Yeah, I can see that too. So you're probably not too far off with that. But yeah, so anyway, those are the top 3 of the nomination categories. The winners of the 76 Primetime Emmy Awards will air live on ABC on September 15th. So if you want some time to catch up on those shows, you have about 2 months to do so plenty of time. And once the awards are given, we'll be right back on the show to talk about some of the winners. But moving on from the Emmys, some sad news.
It's very sad.
Another nail in the coffin for physical media, as Redbox, the DVD, Blu-ray, and video game kiosk rental service, is shutting down all of its kiosk locations after more than 2 decades of serving up DVD rentals for thousands of kiosks across the U.S. I skipped the line. Hold on. Is shutting down all location kiosks after more than 2 decades of serving up DVD rentals for thousands of kiosks across the U.S. That was a period. Okay, I don't know how to read today. I was like, no, that's the end of a sentence.
Words are hard, right?
Words are hard. I was like, no, this is an end of a sentence. Anyway, Redbox's network of 24,000 DVD rental kiosks and its streaming service will shut down after its parent company, Chicken Soup, for the Soul Entertainment converted its Chapter 11 bankruptcy case to a Chapter 7 liquidation. Redbox's business had been in the decline for more than a decade before Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment bought it in 2020. Its revenue peaked in 2013 at $1.97 billion. And the chain at once time had operated more than 43,000 kiosks in the U.S. and Canada, stocked with movies, TV shows, and games.
It's from a different era. It's just from a different world.
It really is. And I know that it was on the decline for quite some time now, because it's funny because Megan's mother every Christmas used to give me a Redbox gift card for whatever. And I would always use that. And I used to go to Redbox mainly because I was impatient between the window of theaters and streaming. And I can go to a Redbox and pick it up, especially for those that eventually will land on streaming services I didn't have at the time. So I would always go to Redbox to kind of use that. And then even before that, like when it was around the time where Blockbuster was losing its steam and kind of going out of business, and then Redbox was there literally at every corner, inside every Publix, every Walgreens, like Walmarts. They were literally everywhere. When new movies came out, they were there ready for you to rent, and it was roughly about $1. Eventually, it got up to about $3 a night if you wanted a Blu-ray, and it was easy because you're probably in one of those grocery stores at least once a week. So why not rent it for the weekend? It's still roughly about cheaper than it is to rent it online, and then here you are. So it's kind of sad to see that this is a point where another reason why physical media is just going dead.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, especially, I mean, you can even, like, you just brought up people going to the grocery store, but a lot of people don't even do that anymore because, they have these delivery services now so it's just the Instacart shoppers or whoever that are mainly in the store. So that's even less of an audience that's taking the time as a family or whoever, as just as one person in the home unit to go out and, let me get some groceries. Oh, look, they got the Redbox there. Well, let's rent a movie. Yeah. Like there's not that anymore, because it's like, what's streaming? And then they can be, instead of them looking at Redbox, they're looking on their phone on their streaming app on, what can we watch when I get home? Like it's just no need for a Redbox anymore, unfortunately. Especially with video, and especially with video on demand. Video on demand is kind of this, like, this age is pay-per-view.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, and especially how certain movies, it's so quick. It could be as low as 2 weeks for certain movies to hit theaters to video on demand. And some people don't mind spending the $20 premium. Sometimes they charge to rent it. And then if you wait a little bit, then you're spending about $6 to rent, and you get it for 48 hours, which is technically the same price you would get at a Redbox if they were still doing it, because it would be, around the $2 to $3 a night. And if you rented it for a weekend, it would be about $6 because they charge you nightly. So, and what I used to do, Ernesto, was I used to go to the Redboxes at midnight, because it starts at midnight. So then technically the movie doesn't need to be turned until 9 p.m. the next day. So if you get it at midnight, you get a full day as well as the next day, instead of some people that if you say if you go to the grocery store like at 7 p.m., it still has to be returned at 9 p.m. the next day. So I was scheming, wheeling, and dealing the system here.
I see the middle 11:58. It's like, nope, I'm not renting it yet.
Nope.
Megan's like, I'm tired. Shh.
No.
Go wait in the car.
This is, I'm getting the most out of these $3. All right.
I know. I see. Squeezing every last penny. I used to be so bad about those.
Yeah.
Steph famously tells the story about how I rented a movie from the Redbox, and I just forgot about it. I never returned it. I ended up owning it, and it wasn't even. And I still have yet to see this movie. I think it was The Blind Side, the Sandra Bullock movie.
You've never seen The Blind Side?
I rented it and I never watched it.
Well, I mean, you own it.
I actually own it
if you can find it. Yeah.
Yeah, if
it's
I
not
can.
A bad
yeah,
movie.
That's the other thing. If I can find it, who knows where it is?
I think after 30 days they just stopped charging you. So I think it was like $2 a day. So eventually they'll probably cost you about, I don't know, like $60 or so. But yeah, you own it for sure.
And it's not even like a good quality version. It's the rental version. So it's like no special features. It's the menu and the movie. That's all you get, and not even in the case.
Yeah, and it's funny because at the time that Redbox came out, this was like a hey, you don't have to go to Redbox, you don't have to go to Blockbuster anymore, and we're not doing late fees, we're not doing this. It was kind of revolutionary at the time, but but also it was limited in the sense of like they only had new release movies. You don't have a long backlog of classics, and sometime when the new movie was coming out, they would throw some classics in there. But just kind of like the Netflix home DVD service that they also let go about a year ago now. The need for physical media. Most people don't even have a DVD Blu-ray player. When you buy a video game console, there's an option where you don't need the disc anymore. Yeah. So like everything is just online anymore. I guess in some cases it was just inevitable for Redbox to go out of business. But as a collector myself and someone who tries to continue the trend of collecting physical media, it's just we're just now down an age where we don't need to do that anymore.
True.
And it's kind of sad. So yeah.
The end.
So
the end of an era.
Goodbye, Redbox. You served us well.
Well,
moving on.
I wasn't sure. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were still doing your in memoriam or what exactly you were like. Should I get the music like I will remember you? I mean, that's what I felt like I should have got that ready for you.
Ernesto's like, "Are you done now? We got to move on."
It's like we all have streaming. We know it was ending a long time ago. Anyway.
Yeah.
We've all known.
Yeah, but now it's okay because you own like every streaming service now, so like you can watch whatever you want whenever you want. Get over it. Move on.
Exactly. Anyways, all right. Skydance Media has announced that it and its backers will invest $8 billion in a takeover of Paramount Global. Under the agreement, Skydance will invest $8 billion in Paramount, including paying $2.4 billion for National Amusements, which controls the group. A new Paramount valued at $28 billion will be formed, with Skydance founder and CEO Dave Ellison in place as CEO of the new business. Skydance said its plans to enhance and reinvigorate marquee Paramount and CBS brands while providing profitability and investing more in faster-growing digital platforms. Paramount is the owner of Paramount Film and TV Studios, Paramount Plus, CBS, and cable channels including Nickelodeon, MTV, and Comedy Central. Paramount has a long list of intellectual property, including Star Trek, Mission Impossible, Top Gun, and SpongeBob. This takeover feels like natural progression as Skydance Media has been partnering with Paramount since 2010 to produce and distribute several of its films, including Mission Impossible 4 through 7, Top Gun Maverick, Transformers Rise of the Beast, and Terminator Dark Fate. I think this is really interesting because I think, when you think of a movie studio and something as big as Paramount, you almost would see it like the other way around. And then Paramount is such this big and prestigious like movie studio company. So I just think for me, the most interesting thing about the story is that it's Skydance that has the capital to even think about buying Paramount. And then
Very true.
I don't think as far as on our end, we may see a difference just because they're, they've been together for, as I mentioned, for so long. So.
Yeah, I mean, Skydance Media has been a long-lasting, like I said, with not only Paramount, but they've been producing a lot of films that we've seen on Apple TV Plus, as well as a couple of films on Netflix. So like they've been bouncing around, but like some of the big ones, like you just mentioned, like since 2010. So like to me, this feels like it's like, oh, we're already in a partnership together. Why not afford the ability to, if we can, to kind of just take it over because we've already been doing this already. So it kind of feels natural. And so in essence, and when I was reading about this, I know Skydance was trying to buy them, but then something fell through. And then that kind of, I guess the deal was no longer happening. And then they were able to come back about a month later with the new deal, and then they was able to acquire it. So in the process of to now that point, what happens next? I think I kind of agree with you. If they're already making these successful movies to begin with, it doesn't sound like much is going to happen. Now, I think every time there's a takeover or merger, obviously a lot of people are probably going to lose their job. A lot of consolidation between different positions. But other than that, it sounds like Viacom is definitely letting go of the Paramount brand that they have and taking all of its media with them. And I think it's better than saying not. I say this lightly, but it's not like Discovery taking over Warner Brothers, a TV channel taking over a big movie studio. This is a movie studio taking over another movie studio that they have been working together for quite some time now. So out of all the mergers we've talked about on this show, I think this one feels the more like, oh, okay, good for you.
That's nice.
That's nice. But yeah, I don't know if we're going to see much changes come out of this. But again, as I've stated before, like it does kind of suck that now that Skydance is kind of technically owning Paramount, like it's another studio we're not going to see more creative projects come out of. So like now it was Skydance making movies in addition with Paramount. And now, I don't know, maybe it might do the same. Maybe all of its movies would just go through Paramount now instead of, making deals with Apple or Netflix to put out their movies. Maybe it's solely going to be Paramount, just like anything else. Marvel's solely Disney. Same with Pixar and Lucasfilm. They have their own now, their own distributor. So maybe Paramount is just that for Skydance, and that's just how it's going to be moving forward.
True. So, yeah, it makes sense. We'll have to. It'll be interesting to see what comes out at the end of this, or when it does come to fruition.
Yeah, but also $8 billion it's pretty big.
Yeah,
a big deal. A lot, like all these unimaginable numbers, and it's kind of weird to think that they said that the value is now $28 billion. I'm also curious how they're gonna. If there is debt to be had, if there's any, losing any money, what they're going to do to combat that. But yeah, I think at the beginning, I feel like it's going to be a long time before we see any changes that we would notice coming to the movie front on this. But anyway, this is a nice deal, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So now we're moving over to HBO Max. The new upcoming Harry Potter series has found a showrunner. Francesca Gardner, the consulting producer behind seasons 3 and 4 of Succession and the executive producer behind season 3 of His Dark Materials, has been hired to be the new showrunner for the upcoming Untitled series based on the Harry Potter books. Mark Malloyd, the executive producer of Succession and director behind multiple episodes of Succession, Game of Thrones, Shameless, Entourage, and the upcoming second season of The Last of Us, and the 2022 film The Menu, has also been hired to direct multiple episodes for the series, as well as serve as executive producer. I mean, I was kind of on the fence about this Harry Potter series. I still, in a lot of aspects, I still am. I don't want to go to. We've already been down that rabbit hole, but this is good news. I think that regardless of how you feel about the original or what they have plans for this, I think that they have a great creative team headlining the show. So not for nothing, we're in good. I think that we're in good hands creatively. Yeah,
I mean that is stacked. I mean, obviously which also what an honor. You're coming off of the hit show that is Succession, and then now you're going to be spearheading the Harry Potter series. That's a pretty big deal.
I agree, absolutely.
And also, I mean, kind of keeping it within the family. Most of these shows that you listed are all within HBO. So I think they really wanted to make sure that you got some heavy hitters, that you've already produced amazing shows out of this, continue to do so. And especially with a very lucrative brand as Harry Potter, you kind of don't want to mess this up. So you make sure that you bring on the people that are going to get the job done. So I agree with you. I'm still skeptical about even becoming a series, but so far looking pretty good.
Yeah, we're off to a good start.
But with that, within this news, it said that it was now coming to HBO, and this is now going to be an HBO original. And if we remember, Ernesto, when we had talked about the Green Lantern series, they said it was going to be an HBO series as well. And I was like, that's interesting. Why would this be an HBO series and not a Max original? And then shortly after the Green Lantern news and shortly after the Harry Potter news, this article came out describing apparently the delineation between what an HBO show and what a Max show is. And it's quite interesting. So, like I said, there seems to be a little bit of a rebranding happening over at Warner Brothers Discovery. As it was announced that most Max original TV shows will now become HBO original TV shows instead. Max and HBO CEO Casey Bloys is changing the delineation between what an HBO show and a Max show is, moving most of its Max upcoming big budget tentpole Warner Brother IP projects to under the HBO umbrella. That means that the upcoming Harry Potter series, Welcome to Derry It prequel series, and the recently announced Green Lantern series will now all be branded as HBO originals. This is a switch from the most recent decision to place all series based on Warner Brothers IP in the Max bucket, which was first established when Bloys added oversight of Max in 2020. Bloys said that in a statement, "We felt like we had to delineate between an HBO show and a Max show. The idea of using Warner Brothers IP as a delineation for Max felt right. At least that gives you a clear line. But as we started producing those shows, we were using the same methods, the same kind of thinking, and in all of the cases, using the same talent toward as we approach HBO shows. The idea of the delineation kind of started to feel unnecessary. Like, why are we doing this? Let's just call them what they are, HBO shows," unquote. The change officially takes effect with shows launching in 2025. Shows like The Penguin and Dune Prophecy, which both premiere later this fall, were originally going to remain Max originals due to the shows already being sold overseas with the Max label, but after some negotiation will now become HBO original, with both series now airing on HBO and streaming on Max. So a lot of technical jargon behind the scenes talk here, but I do find it interesting that even HBO and Warner Brothers Discovery was like, what's the difference? Why does this matter? I guess it doesn't matter, because now what I find interesting is that, okay, if most of your shows are now under the HBO banner, what is Max?
Exactly. Well, I guess that they want to make that distinction, but there is a huge difference between like an HBO show and just like a regular TV shows. I feel like, and it's kind of weird to say, but the shows that come out on HBO, they're just on a different level. They're that's like, especially their drama series. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but there's just something. There's a different feeling than a show that comes out from HBO. You almost look at it on a higher pedestal almost.
Yeah, but also like the branding, HBO, it comes with this gravitas, like you were kind of describing, of like, this is a show that it's gonna have something to it. Like when it holds that brand, it means something. Ever since, even The Sopranos, The Wire, like it brings that style. Now Game of Thrones is under that umbrella of these classic HBO shows. You come here for literally what it stands for, home box office. You are here to witness a spectacle. And that's what people come here for. And I think with the Max originals, it was geared toward their IPs, but well, like you said, if you're using all the same people, let's just call them what they are, HBO. Now, what I find really interesting was that ever since Warner Brothers Discovery took over and they made a lot of cuts and they made Max the new streaming service and all this stuff, I feel like ever since that happened, they really didn't come out with anything memorable that is classified as a Max original. Like, I can barely tell you one show right now that is a Max original that's not already tied into then, it's an HBO show, which is even more baffling that when they released the Max title for your streaming service, you completely dropped the HBO, the one thing that people instantly recognize. with that. So I don't know, maybe because now it just feels like the Max streaming service is just a place where you can watch HBO shows. And
That's
the
exactly
Max streaming, that's exactly, yeah. And now Max offers nothing that I can think of at the top of my head as far as we have original content, which for the last couple of years, and not what I shouldn't say years, the last couple of months or within the last year, I feel like most of the Max original content has either been documentaries or reality TV shows, which is funny because that's what Discovery is. So, yeah. So here we are making some weird decisions as usual, but I think at the very least, if an HBO show is an HBO show and you know that having that as your title brings people more to the show, then I to me that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good thing they're getting their labels right at the end of the day.
Yeah, especially with all the new stuff coming out. Like, I guess, and in that way, they can just have better marketing when they put it on HBO because it's an HBO original, not a Max show.
Right. And now, I guess, again, like I said, moving forward, I would like to see that if all of these shows are now HBO shows, what is Max? What does the Max streaming service have to offer me as a subscriber? Nothing. Because right now,
nothing.
Right now, it seems like HBO is doing all the heavy lifting.
Accurate.
So, yes.
All right. Well, keeping in the same vein of HBO Max, we're going to talk about the planned Arkham Asylum TV series. Set in the Matt Reeves Batman universe, is no longer moving forward at Max. Antonio Campos, the creator behind the limited series The Staircase and writer-director behind 2020's Devil All the Time, was attached to serve as writer and showrunner. According to an individual with knowledge of the situation, Campos' version of the series will not proceed, but it is still possible that a new project within the infamous Gotham City Asylum could be developed in the future. Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of like very vague news. I know that they were having, they've, as been reported, they've been having money issues. So, they got to cut where they can cut, and maybe it just didn't make the cut. Honestly.
Yeah, it definitely feels like one of those scenarios where, like, I don't think anything was wrong with what maybe the script was. And I do agree with you. I think it's more of a money issue that this show wasn't far along. And it's like, oh, we can just cut this because nothing has really been developed. So we don't have to do it. But, I mean, right now with the Penguin coming out, maybe that can change because due to the potential success of what the Penguin can offer. So maybe with that, maybe they might have a change of heart when it comes to the Arkham Asylum series. But maybe they also cut the series because maybe they have something down the pipe for James Gunn's DC universe, and maybe he wants to start doing an Arkham Asylum series. And we can't have two, so we're going to get rid of one and favor the other, because it did say that the infamous Gotham City Asylum could be developed in the future. So maybe that's what they're getting ready for.
That's fair. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think about that.
But either way, I think, and kind of a way, we also got the Gotham series that was on Fox that lasted for multiple seasons, which I never watched at all. So I don't want to necessarily say that it's like, oh, Arkham Asylum would be great as a series. And like, well, Gotham City also sounded like a great idea too. And then, it wasn't my cup of tea. So maybe this is a good thing that this never came about. Yeah, but
maybe this will make space for something that's better, that could incorporate Arkham Asylum in it.
Yeah, I think so too. And also, I would like to assume that the Batman 2 would be maybe featuring more of Arkham Asylum. So maybe that storyline wants to be more explored in a movie setting rather than a TV show, or maybe it's just too soon. Maybe we're going to explore that later on. So
sure.
A lot of possibilities. I'm still in favor of an Arkham Asylum series, though. I think that could be a good idea for a show.
I agree.
And lastly, man, got a lot of shows ending.
Are you sad about this? Are you sad about some of these?
Some more than others. Obviously, the ones that I've watched, we'll go over a few of them. Lastly, it's time to go over some of the shows that have been recently announced to either be coming to an end or just got straight up canceled. We're going to first start off with one that we've already kind of talked about before, but we're just going to reiterate it again. Amazon Prime Video announced that The Boys have been renewed for a 5th and final season. We knew that was coming. We're going to be talking about it later on the show. And I think kind of what we said before, I think it's a good time to know when it's time to end a show, because you don't want to prolong it too far. But I think, knowing when you want to end it, ending it on your own terms, and ending on a high note, I think it's all a good thing. So I'm kind of okay that The Boys will be coming to an end.
Yeah, taking the Breaking Bad line, like just end on a high note.
Yeah, exactly. Amazon Prime Video is also ending Upload, being renewed for a 4th and final season, as well as Outer Range just being canceled after 2 seasons. Upload, I don't think I ever watched the 3rd season, but you didn't even finish watching the 3rd season.
We started it and said, nope. That's literally what happened.
It felt like it was I think we both agree that it had a good first season.
Yeah. They should have kept it. They could have kept all their storylines. They should have just combined it into 2 solid seasons, and it would have been fine. But
at least it didn't get canceled. It's getting renewed and is going to have a proper ending for those who are watching it, but not Outer Range. I believe that was Josh Brolin's kind of Western sci-fi show. Yeah, that just got canceled. So sorry for the fans of that. Paramount Plus just canceled the live-action Halo series after 2 seasons, with the creator of the show now shopping around to other streaming services for a possible 3rd season. This one hurts a little bit, but I also can say that I'm not too surprised by this either. This was a kind of a love-hate relationship that I had with the Halo series, but I do think that it was finding its footing. But I think one of the biggest things about this show was it's so expensive. This show was so high-priced, and if it wasn't hitting the numbers, I don't think Paramount Plus could have justified renewing it for another season. Now, I am curious if another streaming service would pick it up. And honestly, the only 2 streaming services I can see that can even handle that price tag, it's either Netflix or Apple TV Plus. Maybe Amazon too. They do spend a lot of money on Lord of the Rings, but I don't know if they want to invest more into
Especially if the first you see, it's like the reviews for the show that has already that they're trying to shop for has already had like mixed, mostly positive, but it is kind of mixed out there on the reception. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, no, it's definitely mixed, and I do believe that the 2nd season was stronger than the first, primarily because the showrunners actually know what the video game is, so that's a big help. But yeah, I think that I'm not too surprised by this, and like I said, I think it definitely was moving on it was definitely better than the 2nd season was better than the 1st season, but at the same time, do you justify that to get a 3rd season? It did leave itself on a cliffhanger, so there's that, but at the same time, you got 2 seasons out of it. If you can't make it work, then I guess it's time to kind of put it away. But I wish the creators some luck to find another buyer, because if they can, kind of wrap this up, then it won't be a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad show. It's just never really found its footing just yet. Apple TV Plus canceled the Big Door Prize after 2 seasons, as well as Constellation after 1 season. I heard a lot of people talking about the Big Door Prize, and they enjoyed what they got from the first 2 seasons. It was never much of a push for me to go watch it myself, but I did hear some positive stuff around it, so it's sad to see that it kind of got the boot somewhat very quickly.
I think I started the first season, and then I just lost interest. It wasn't enough to keep me going.
Netflix announced that The Witcher has been renewed for a 5th and final season ahead of its season 4 premiere. This one was a while back ago, but kind of just reiterating. I think this honestly has everything to do with Henry Cavill no longer being part of The Witcher,
100%
in my opinion. Liam Hemsworth is now taking over the role in season 4, and maybe with everything that's going on, that they said, hey, we're going to give you one more, we're going to call it a day. And again, it's nice to know that you have an ending you can line up, ahead of season 4 that you have an ending in season 5. So now it's kind of nice you can start laying that groundwork now to have a proper ending for the show, no matter how you feel about Henry Cavill leaving or not. Netflix's animated series Arcane will also be ending after its upcoming second season. I know a lot of people were talking about Arcane.
I've heard so many positive things about that. I'm surprised to see that one's ending, or unless at least they're giving it an ending and not canceling it, like letting it have that second season to round its story out.
HBO canceled Tokyo Vice after 2 seasons, as well as The Girls on the Bus after just 1 season. I know you were a big fan of Tokyo Vice.
And I was going to watch the second season, but if it's not going to end, then I'm not going to invest my time.
Fair enough.
Like, I liked it, but not enough to be left hanging at the end.
Right. Show creator Pete Davidson decided to end his Peacock series Bupkis after 1 season, despite Peacock renewing the series for a second season. This one I found really interesting. This is another one that was also a while back. But yeah, Peacock said, yeah, Pete Davidson will give you a second season for your show. And they're in the process of, developing an early development for the second season. And then at some point, Pete Davidson was like, no, I don't want to continue this. And he said, I think he stated that everything he wanted to say was within the first season and he had nothing more to offer with this show.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a bold move because you could have easily just kind of forced something.
Could have taken the money.
Absolutely. The CW canceled Walker after 4 seasons, as well as All-American spinoff series All-American Homecoming after 3 seasons. I'm actually quite shocked that Walker even lasted 4 seasons, to be honest with you. But here we are. And NBC canceled Quantum Leap after just 2 seasons. And lastly, ABC has renewed The Conners for its 7th and final season. I'm actually quite surprised that The Conners even lasted that long as a spinoff from, obviously, the Roseanne.
Yeah.
And it also lasted this long after kicking Roseanne off the show, I believe, after either the first or the first 2 seasons.
Almost immediately, very
almost immediately,
very early on.
Yeah, and the cast have been able to continue on without its main star, and obviously change the name to The Conners. I believe it wasn't the case before.
It was called Roseanne,
I don't think,
wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean, good for them to continue for 7 seasons. So it must have
done fairly well.
Done fairly well. And again, we've said this before, not a lot of shows can say that they get past even season 4.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a hard number to even get past nowadays. 5 seems like a sweet spot for decent shows that kind of want to go on for a little bit but have an end in sight. 3 seasons seems like a good number as well for most shows. But for comedies, they kind of last a little bit longer. But good for you for a sitcom to go 7 seasons. I feel like now we're going to be seeing this less and less of certain shows getting these longer season runs. So it's kind of bittersweet to see a show kind of end after you kind of hit a threshold to some regard. But yeah, those are all the shows that are coming to an end, and that is all the news we have for you guys this week. If you want all the entertainment news, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Facebook and it's been so long since we've done. Thank you for putting up the graphic.
You seem like you were struggling a little bit.
Well, I was like, what do I typically say during the entertainment news? I had the whole rhythm. I typically have it. If you want more entertainment news, you can always follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, on our Facebook page at Box Office Bingers and our Instagram at Threads page at _Bingers. We'll post all the latest and breaking news over there first, and then we'll come back in the show and we'll talk about it. Boom! Remembered it. All right, and now we're going to move over to a fun segment we like to call Whatcha Watchin. So with that, Ernesto, we'll start with you. What have you been watching?
So, and this is obviously besides our week-to-week reviews that we're going to be tackling every week, but my first Whatcha Watchin is I guess I didn't realize that the 7th season of Rick and Morty had dropped. So yeah, so I watched and completed the whole 7th season of Rick and Morty, and it is just as good. Like, it's just so funny. I just love how like it's just so crazy and out there. We get a bunch of great cameos this season. Literally, Hugh Jackman is he has a guest appearance in the first episode, and they're like making fun of him, and it didn't really. He was like kind of putting on a voice for it, and I was like, this is crazy. There's no way that they got him. I'm thinking it's like South Park, where it's like they're doing a voice and pretending that it's him. No, it was him. It was him. I mean, and Rick and Morty is known for that, just kind of being this like irreverent comedy. It's like very nihilistic, but it's hilarious, and they tackle a lot of good themes this season. I was actually really surprised on just like the forethought on all the writing and just how well crafted the narratives were. They're funny, but yet they still at the end it kind of made you like, like it gave you a little something to think about at the end of each episode. And Dan Harmon is really good at the end of each episode. You get an inside the episode of the things that they were tackling within. So solid and high rewatchability. It's what's good about Rick and Morty is that it can be, you can turn your brain off and enjoy it, but you can also watch it and try to find and get those deeper meanings within the episode, within the narrative that they're writing. So I'm all for it.
Do you think I can get into it? Because I know we've had this conversation before,
yes, I think you
and
can. I think you can.
There is a barrier there, and I want to watch this.
I want to like this.
I want to like this because so many people said this is a great show. I just somehow there's some invisible barrier there that's preventing me from wanting to invest time into this because I feel like I'm just not going to enjoy it. And I did try once before, but you know, maybe it's been a couple of years now, so maybe it's time to try again.
I know that you're kind of adverse to like adult animation.
Yes, that is correct.
I think that's what it is. It's like if you're gonna be like this, like you might as well just be a TV show. Is that how you look at it? But I just feel like you can do. They're just so limitless on what they can do with animation. You know, like you're not. They're not bound by. You know, they're not bound by reality of the things that that they can achieve.
I feel like also part of it's like there's a level of absurdity to it where sometimes it doesn't always sit well with me. Like I feel like they've always like you kind of went too far. That like I don't feel like this is worth it.
Well, there's that.
There is a line.
There's definitely. I mean, I'm not gonna say there's not. There's definitely that.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it before. But like I guess there are some shows that are meant for adults that are animated that I can still get into, but it doesn't like. There's some groundedness to this, and I never see Rick and Morty as being a grounded show.
That does not describe the show whatsoever. It is the opposite of grounded.
Right. So yeah, maybe one of these days. But I feel like I'm more likely to start Succession before I start Rick and Morty.
Well, that's fair. That's a good choice. I will. I will agree with that. That sounds like a much better option.
Okay, all right. I'm glad we're on the same page there.
For those who didn't know, it's out. Season 7 is out on streaming. Give it a watch. It's great. I will be going back to rewatch it at some point.
Okay.
And as far as I have one other thing for Whatcha Watchin. I watched and finished this last season of Hacks. Great season. It's so good. Like I think I'm more surprised about how much I actually enjoy the show. Like, 'cause this show is seemingly not like it doesn't seem like a show that would be for me, but it's just so funny and just so cleverly written. I'm just a sucker for good writing, regardless of if the narrative is like, I'm maybe not their base of who they were marketing to. But when the writing is good, it doesn't really matter. Like, can you give me a well-crafted narrative? And they 100% can do that. Like, Hannah Einbinder, I think she makes, like, she's so unlikable that you love her. Like I hate her. Like, her character is so annoying and so, like, her character is very cringy. But I like that, and I think that her and Jean Smart just play so well off of each other, and that's what just makes it so engaging. And that it's not just a story about Jean Smart. It's not just a story about Hannah Einbinder. Like, it's just crafted very, very well how they come together to tell the story of hacks. And it's funny because they're each like a hack in their own sense, and how they come together. And I think the way that they ended this last season, I was like, wow, I actually did not see that coming. Like the way that they ended it, the route that they took it to get us there, I didn't see it coming. But when we got there, I was like, this all just makes so much sense. And to me, that was the highlight of the season, the fact that they were able to craft me a narrative that I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, and honestly, the ending for me was badass.
Yes, so good.
I love this ending. Megan and I, we watched this in about 2 or 3 days once the season was all over, and we binged the hell out of it. And it's funny because I don't remember if you told me to watch this show.
It was me.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, you told me to watch this show, and then I watched it, and then I think I've already said this story before, but I'll say it again. And then I think we had just finished the second season. And then Megan's like, "Hey, have you seen this show Hacks?" Like it's like I just started it and it's pretty good. And I was like, clearly someone does not listen to the podcast.
Well, we know.
And we know that. Yeah, we know. And I was like, I've been you're kind of late to the game. I've told you that you would love this show. It's like, oh well, I started it. So then I ended up rewatching it again with her as she was watching, seasons 1 and 2, and then we were able to watch season 3. Together. And I also love how this is crafted because like you can see that Hannah who plays Ava on the show, she is like conflicted with her kind of personal goals, but also she feels like she's being fulfilled when she works with Deborah and her achievements. But at the same time, like there's some toxic relationship there, but they also need each other at the same time. But you kind of like and which is kind of the basis of the show. We have old way of thinking, new way of thinking, and seeing that kind of merge together between these two characters. I think it's great, and I think the kind of the idea, like we stated before, with The Bear season 2, there was a goal in mind, and the goal for Deborah was we want late night. And the goal for season 2 of The Bear was we're trying to open this restaurant, and it's the journey to get there is what's so entertaining about it, because we know that there's a goal at the end of it. Whether she gets late night or not, that's what we're watching. That's what we're waiting to find out. And we're getting these great character moments along the way that I think really makes this show stand out. And then when we get to the final episode and we have that emotional conversation that they had, and then immediately what happens soon after was incredible.
It was just so good.
I remember that when the show came out and they had the behind the scenes that followed afterward, they were kind of talking about how kind of all 3 seasons were building up to this. And I kind of agreed because I didn't pick it up on first, but yeah, it's like, and they were going over how some of the character beats were happening here, and here, and then with Deborah's here, and here, and then we get to this moment, and I didn't really see it that way, but it was kind of cool for them to explain it and be like, damn, yeah, I guess you guys have been kind of leaning toward this moment. So now here's like the boiling point, and now we get to see, because it got renewed for another season. And the creators said that they always envisioned this to be 5 seasons. So they already got to 4. I don't think I'm sorry, not HBO. This one's a Max original. This was a Max original. So I would like to think that Max would give it its due, since it's being nominated for literally every season during the Emmys. So I can 100% see them getting their 5th and potential final season if that's what they want. But a great show that I always look forward to when it comes out.
Yeah. Besides our week-to-week stuff that we're watching, that's all I got. Okay.
Well, before we dive into The Boys and House of Dragon, I got one to share, and it is Star Wars: The Acolyte. This is a show that has been heavily criticized within the Star Wars fan base.
It's an understatement.
It's an understatement, that's for sure. And I know we had talked about it briefly, that I said I had started the show, and within how kind of the weeks panned out, and I was going to bring it up, but now the show is over, and now I can talk to it as a whole. And I do believe that this show is better in its whole than it is in its parts. But
so not a week to week.
It definitely not a week to week, because I picked up on it at episode 5, So like I watched 1 through 5 in pretty much I binged it, and then 6, 7, and 8 I was watching week to week. If I was watching episodes 1, 2, and 3 week to week, I would say this was probably the worst Star Wars shows I had ever seen, because it's rough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The first 3 episodes are rough. I'm literally sitting here like, why am I continuing watching this show? Because the story feels off, the acting feels off, and what sucks is that there's, after watching all of it, and I feel like that because of its poor start, it just got a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and they were just harshly criticizing it. And then the 4th episode came about, and it was like, oh, okay, here's story. That's something I wasn't getting these first 3 episodes. Like, solid story. Like, okay, we're getting progression. And then, Ernesto, I'll tell you what, I was flipped around 180. This 5th episode, titled Night, which was the 4th episode was titled Day, and then the 5th episode was titled Night. It is as a standalone episode, and I recommend anyone to go watch episode 5.
Just episode 5.
Was just episode 5 as a standalone episode. It was probably some of the best Star Wars I have ever seen, as well as some of the best lightsaber battles that I've ever seen since the battle at Mustafa between Anakin and Obi-Wan on the Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, that is a bold statement, sir.
Yes, and I say that not lightly. I was like literally like, holy shit, this is badass. This is great. Where was this half the season? Right? And this was the episode where they revealed who the big bad was and who was kind of been like lurking in the shadows. And they came out running with this, man. Like, the lightsaber battles were incredible. The guy was using his helmet to disengage lightsabers. Like, he was headbutting lightsabers and it would disengage. And I was like, what? Like, he was like flinging the lightsabers using the Force and just taking down people. People died. A lot of people died in that episode. I was giving them so much credit by the end of it. I was like, okay, maybe we just have to get to episode 5. Like, this is it, guys. Like, I was turned around, and that's where I stopped. Right? That's where I stopped with like the binge. And then I had to do 6, 7, and 8 to week. So I ended on a high note on that binge. I was like, okay, here we go. Now we're talking. Episode 6, not as strong. We had to come back down from that high. I understand it. And we're, again, forward progression. Episode 4, 5, and 6, great. The part that I was a little bit frustrated with episode 1, 2, and 3 was like 1, 2, and 3 was a very weak story, but 3 decided to go tell like here's what happened, like a what do you call a flashback? It was a flashback episode. So here's what happened in a certain situation, and then it was like, okay, some of the answers are going to be revealed to what maybe some of the questions you may have. Not a damn thing was answered. I was like, I still don't know what the hell's going on.
You got no answers.
But thanks. Yeah. And then 4, 5, and 6 happened. I was like, okay, great. Forward momentum. These episodes have been solid. 5 has been fantastic. Then episode 7 happens. The penultimate episode, when we were already having good strides. And it was like, you know what you need? A different perspective from that flashback episode. And I was literally sitting there. It's like, no. Why? Why did you do that? And then now you're seeing the same scenes play out, but under a different perspective to give you more context of maybe like, okay, this is what here's the real meaning behind the stuff that you saw. And guess what? Still didn't answer shit. We had now 2 episodes filled with these flashbacks that meant nothing to me. And I was like, well, we just went back down. And then episode 8, which was the finale, kind of, as these shows typically do, quickly tried to formulate an ending to this by giving us a tease to a potential another season. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if you're going to get that second season or not. But at the end of the day, when I look at this as a whole, I did see things in Star Wars I've never seen before. I cannot forget that really cool lightsaber battle in episode 5. The story's rough, but it wasn't as bad as the first 3 episodes made it out to be. I don't want to say I recommend it, but I do think that if you are a Star Wars fan and you are interested, give it a shot.
You did a great job of not selling me on this show.
I will also say this. So Lee Jung Jae, who was the main star of Squid Game, and he was brought on to this show to be the main lead for The Acolyte. And what I found really impressive about this was that he learned English for the show. When they hired him, he did not know English, and he learned it specifically for this show. Manny Jackino, I don't know his name. I don't know his last name, but he was, I believe he played Jason in The Good Place. Oh, and and he, he's hilarious, but he played a different role that I wasn't expecting. And also he got jacked for this role. I was like, damn, Jason, or was it Jason? I think it was Jason, right? Yeah. I was like, damn, you got jacked for this role. Good for you. So, I feel like there was, a lot of... Yeah, Jason Mendoza. That was his name in The Good Place. And so I feel like there was, a lot of time, a lot of energy put into this. And, there was some good stuff to come out of it. But at the end of the day, it just didn't land 100% that I wish it could have for a show that exploring the dark side of the Force. And, and where that could have been, and also taking place many years ahead of the Phantom Menace, which was the first movie. So
you mean before?
Yeah, if you're, I guess again,
before the Phantom Menace.
If you this took place 100 years before the Phantom Menace. So again, if you're a Star Wars fan, definitely check it out. If you're about it, then I don't think you're gonna care for it, because if you're feeling about it, I don't think it's gonna be hitting you any hard by going into it.
I do have a question, because I've seen a bunch of different reviews online, and every week it's this is why this show sucks, or this is they did this, they did that. The one thing that I've seen all around is that they took, I guess they retconned the Darth Plagueis storyline, because he's supposed to learn. There's this whole thing about him learning death, and then that links to this scene where Palpatine is talking to Anakin about how Darth Plagueis cheated death, and he is the first one to ever do it, but apparently the Acolyte retconned that in some way.
So it's hard to tell, because again, mild spoilers, Darth Plagueis does make an appearance on the final episode of this season. But by make an appearance, I mean you just see him creeping out of the shadows. That's it. So to say what people are saying about it, it's well, we literally didn't even see. He didn't say a word.
He didn't do anything.
He was just creeping in the background. He didn't do anything. So to say that, they've retconned this is no, they didn't give me any story evidence that they retconned anything. So I cannot say any of that. What I also, kind of going back a little bit, I believe it was episode 7, kind of really being weird, and a lot of weird things that happened within the show. But the one that I find awfully strange, and I have to talk about it, was at the end of the episode, they had a pop song in the credits.
Why?
Exactly. Exactly. And I was well, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but
all right.
Star Wars have never put a pop song at the end credits of an episode, or let alone a movie. You get a score. You get these. You don't get if you get music, it's from the cantina. It's from the bar.
Yeah.
You don't get this song that it definitely relates to what the story is, but no, don't like it. Don't I think you're trying a lot to change Star Wars already. Don't do that. Just don't stop what you're doing and think about it just for a little bit. But yeah, a lot of good stuff did come out of it. A lot of bad stuff did also come out of this. So kind of a lukewarm response. It wasn't a horrible catastrophe like everyone was panning out to be, but it definitely wasn't the masterpiece that it was. But I will always remember episode 5 and the feeling I had when I watched it. So there's something good for me that came out of this show.
Okay.
And that's all I got as far as what I've been watching. So now let's do this. Let's dive into episode 7 and 8 of The Boys as we approach our the final 2 episodes of the season. So Ernesto, kind of, what were your thoughts on? Yeah, I'm not sure if you want to go episode or just kind of do it as a whole in the last 2 episodes.
We can kind of do we can do a little bit of both. So
okay.
Episode 7 is The Insider, directed by Catriona McKenzie, written by Paul Grelong, and I guess we'll talk about episode 8 as well, is Assassination Run. Let's do 7 and then we'll talk about 8 just because I want to talk about the things that were released prior to episode 8. So episode 7, The Insider, Catriona McKenzie, Paul Grelong, it's called The Insider. So in this episode, this is like we get the Christmas special with Ryan, which I thought was kind of funny.
A little weird with the puppet shows.
It was kind of very reminiscent of I don't know if you've ever seen or heard the Broadway Avenue Q.
Yes,
like those puppets. That's exactly that's kind of what like this reminded me of. Ryan's kind of been told that he has to say all these things, which you can tell he's very conflicted about, and his dad's telling him, Homelander's like, just do it. We get A-Train being outed as the leak. The Deep is kind of pushed to the edge where he kills Ambrosia, who if you didn't know, Ambrosia the octopus was played by Tilda Swinton. So I thought that was,
I did know that. Yeah,
I thought that was a really, really weird. I mean, of all people to have. I mean, it was interesting that I would never have thought to see her attached to this project. We get to see this battle between Butcher and Kessler. Of him, him choosing, he's choosing him to not help him even though he's in need. We get the big reveal that Starlight has been a shapeshifter. I actually didn't see that coming. I didn't see it coming, and I didn't even think it happened when I thought it happened when they were chasing the original shapeshifter. I didn't realize that had happened after they did a good job of kind of hiding that and giving us that as a good reveal at the end. So I thought that worked out really well. The scene with Homelander and Webweaver I thought was hilarious. He's like literally just spewing that shit all over the wall.
Yeah.
And then Homelander literally rips him in half. He's like, okay, I'm done. And he just rips him in half, and then you see Firecracker's response. And then as he's being ripped, you just see the webs being shoot out of his ass. And then at the end, Newman's husband, he injects Kamiko in the leg with the virus. They chop her leg off, and then that's what they use to create this next vial of the virus. I thought overall, as a penultimate episode, I thought it was really well. It's like bringing all these things to the end. Oh, also at the end, Ryan on TV just basically states that he didn't want to do this anymore, and he didn't really agree with what he was doing. And in that moment, Butcher is having this inner conversation with Kessler about why he looks to the kid and why he thinks he sees good in him, and then it ends with Butcher passing out from the cancer, the Gen V tumor that's literally growing inside of him. So I think as far as a penultimate episode, I think it's very strong. Like they did a fantastic job of tying all these narratives together and kind of bringing us to this point to see what's laid out for the finale.
Yeah, and I mean, you hit up all the points that I literally have in my notes. Like, yep, check. And the only thing that I think you might have missed was that Sister Sage was she got kicked out of the 7.
That is a big point. Well. That's a big point of that episode.
Yeah, that's a big point. But yeah, I mean, I think overall I do agree with you. A lot of those points were like a lot of setting the foundation for what we ended up getting in the finale. I did think that the shapeshifter was a great addition. I almost wish that they would have introduced that character a little bit earlier, because I thought even going into the finale, they offered a lot of good character moments as the shapeshifter, and kind of that character causing a lot of mayhem within it. I feel like they could have been doing that a little bit more earlier in the season. But I do like. I don't think I was a little bit suspicious when Starlight was like putting on the outfit, and then they kind of went into like this sex scene, and I was like, that to me it was odd because I'm like, they've never even showed this before. Like I've never seen them do this in the show where they, a explicit set scene like that, and especially with these two characters. And I was like, it already felt odd. And then literally as like he's passed out and like she just kind of wakes up in bed like smiling, and I was like, oh, okay, I got it. I got there pretty quickly once, and then obviously shortly after she's going into the safe and stealing all the paperwork. But yeah, I think I did like kind of one of my favorite parts about it was like this is now offering a rift in the dynamic that everyone's been setting up. And also I believe was trying to, like, his wife, I believe that was also in the same episode, was trying to get him to go to Belize, and A-Train was like, no, you have a duty to do. But then A-Train just upped and left as soon as he got outed as the leak. So even though A-Train was the one that was telling to be like, hey, you got to stick around and finish this job, he didn't even do what he did. Like, he ended up, I'm the leak, and then ended up leaving, taking his family and running. And we didn't even see him into episode 8. That was the last time we saw him, was in episode 7. But I do agree with you that pretty much everything you said. Even we had that fight between the deep black noir and in the office of the boys. Is like, okay, you guys are going to be dead now, and that didn't go as planned either. And but yeah, again, I agree with you. A solid episode going into the final episode. A solid penultimate. A solid episode going into the finale. There you go.
Okay, and then we look at episode 8. The finale, which when it was released, it was just called Season 4 Finale, but the actual name of the episode is called Assassination Run, directed by the creator Eric Kripke, written by Jessica Chow and David Reed. I think it was probably very hard for them to, decide what they wanted to do for this episode, because this literally comes out just little bit less than a week after former President Trump had an assassination attempt on his life. So then the boys released this statement. The season finale of The Boys contains scenes of fictional political violence, which some viewers may find disturbing, especially in light of the injuries and tragic loss of life sustained during the assassination attempt on former President Trump. The Boys is a fictitious series that was filmed in 2023, and any scene or plotline similarities to these real-world events are coincidental and unintentional. Amazon, Sony Pictures, and the producers of The Boys reject, in the strongest terms, real-world violence of any kind. So I just think just timing, like the timing of everything, it was a little. I mean, it did seem a little strange that, like, we were leading up to this, and of how those two events and this premiere align. So I thought it was great, and then they actually put this message right when you start the episode. Right. This message showcases.
Yeah, and before we talk about the episode, I do want to kind of comment on what their statement was as well, because they could have easily not shown the finale. Correct. And in other cases, they could have been like, or delayed it. And I feel like this was a kind of a good move all around. Because obviously after the assassination attempt, the former President Trump was at the RNC, and everything seemed to be that it was okay. Like, it was not okay that an assassination attempt happened, but everything seemed like everything was like smoothed out, and like, okay, this is a very sensitive, but also it seemed like, we're all doing okay with this at the end of the day. So I think putting out the statement was a very smart move for them, as well as like releasing the episode, I think was also like, here's a statement, and then now here's the episode. Whereas in the past, with certain projects, under different circumstances, they have been like delays or significant changes to the episode because of real world events. The one that comes to mind for me is the movie Gangster Squad that came out in 2012. And I believe it got delayed it was supposed to be like fall of 2012. I think it ended up coming out in January 2013. And the original ending of Gangster Squad was going to be in a movie theater. There's going to be a shootout in a movie theater. And the Aurora shooting that happened in 2012 was obviously in a movie theater during the Dark Knight Rises premiere during the midnight screenings, which ultimately turned into why we don't have midnight screenings anymore, and it kind of changed the way that we go and see a movie when it comes out. But I remember when that movie was coming out, and because they had a very similar ending to a Real World Events, they ended up going back and re-editing the film, delaying the film, re-editing it, and changing the ending completely to like the shootout being in a different location rather than in a movie theater. So that's a case where they decided to not release the movie, delayed it, change a lot of parts of it, and then moving forward. Now that movie has been out for over 10 years, and I'm sure people who decide to watch that movie now don't even know about that as a fact. But at the time of it, then that was a really big deal that they did that. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other projects that also changed things because of Real World Events. But I think how the boys and the creators of the boys handled this was very smart. And it's like, and also just take the name out of it. We don't need the name of the show. It's the season finale. And then there's like, okay, we all understand what's going on here. Now proceed and watch the show, because it would definitely hinder on the finale if they decided to either delay it or decide to try to change it from there. But yes, I think that was a very smart move on their part.
Yeah, I agree. So then we look at episode 8. Mallory and Ryan, they're visiting Butcher in the hospital. He eventually kills her after learning about Homelander's crimes, which in the end, it seems like it unfazed him. And I feel like she would probably still be alive if she had listened to Butcher, like telling her to stop, like don't tell him yet, like he would have been probably better receptive of that information in a better environment. But you put him in there, and there's too much for him to relate to his dad there, being trapped in this room like his dad would when he was younger, because they're all afraid of him, and then you make it seem like a trap. Like she just set herself up for failure, and then obviously she gets pushed. Ryan kills her, and I thought what was really interesting is that I think we see a change, we see a real shift in his character in that moment, because he just kind of
absolutely.
This woman who raised him, he just basically killed her. And you compare it to when he killed that guy. Was that this season?
That was this season.
When he pushes that guy, and he's so beat up about it, and he's like hurting about it. Whereas this woman who raised him, he just kills her, and he just stares at her and just kind of walks out the room, like no emotion, no nothing. So I am curious to see what is that going to entail for him coming this next. What is going to come for him this next season? That leads to Butcher letting Kessler take control, and it becomes this like tumor symbiote like monster thing, like a Venom type character where he's got like these tentacles and things.
That's a good way of looking at it.
That's kind of I mean, he just doesn't have like a full body suit, but he's got the tentacle. He's got the symbiote shooting out of him.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't really think of it that way until you just said it. But basically, this is like their version of Venom.
Yeah, exactly. I also hated Newman's death. We get all this buildup just for Butcher to literally take her and rip her apart. But I did think it was interesting, since she's someone who can like sense and move blood throughout people, is that she wasn't able to do anything with Butcher. Now, he did it pretty quickly, but who's to say if like how much of that V and that tumor has consumed his insides to the point where somebody with blood powers can't really affect him. So I thought that.
Yeah,
I do.
I do agree with you that her death, and I was like, oh no, like I actually like this character. And I do agree with you that it kind of ended in a anticlimactic way for just in the purpose of the shock value for Butcher.
Yes. Like
it favored the shock value for Butcher to then kill Newman, which her character has been building for 2 seasons now. And we can kind of see her going down on the decline. I would have loved to see her work with the boys officially to try to take down Homelander. But obviously Butcher had other plans on that. Yeah.
And the other death, I mean, we didn't even get any other use of her powers. Just like, just random shit throughout this season. She just threw acid on her, Homelander shot her with her lasers, and she just kind of blocked it. I don't know. We get all this we get this great character and all this build up, and how much she was tied to Huey, and then for like nothing. The other thing that I didn't really like was the Shifter death. I felt like it was really anticlimactic. They spend all this time showing how indestructible she is, only to have Starlight choke her out. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, literally,
Yeah.
she's in that situation room, and she is like annihilating everybody, like nothing. They're just shooting her. She's throwing soldiers up against the wall. She's like breaking their backs in half. And like Starlight, who we assume does not have her full range of powers yet, but she's able to just choke out the shifter and like, okay, she's dead. That's it. Let's go now. Like, you didn't rip her head off. Like, there was like, I felt like there was nothing there. Like, unless there was like a fake out, and then she just did that so that they can bring her back later. But what was the point of that? Well, what would be the point of that?
Yeah, I also agree with you because like I felt like the shifter could have been a great. The episode 7 was a great introduction for this character. I would have loved to see that character move on into the final season to cause more mayhem. So maybe, the shifter wasn't successful in, assassinating the president, but we see that character move on and, cause more trouble later on in the final season, especially how the season ended. Like, that could have been a powerful asset to Homelander moving forward. But again, to your point, they have Annie, who at the time we don't believe has any of her powers, not to full strength, is unable to. It was very easily within a couple of moves, we're just able to choke her out, and that was it, and that was the end. When she was posed as a powerful character, and also that great interaction between the shifter and Annie when Annie was trapped up and the shifter needed like some extra juice, like kind of a refuel or recharge, as the shifter said. And they had like, I think it was a great moment for Annie to literally see herself as she's kind of going through the mental struggles that she's been having for this whole season. Now you literally have a person that looks exactly like you, telling you you're a piece of shit, and you are now fighting back with oneself. I think that was a cool visual representation of that that I think the show did very well, and I feel like again we could have used some of that more into the final season, but again they very, to your point, anticlimactically just killed off the shapeshifter and moving on with the rest of the show.
You bring up a really good point, because I actually had that in my notes, that scene, because I feel like, imagine talking to somebody who can literally has seen every dark thought in your head, knows exactly what you feel in your heart. Like, you're literally, like, they gave us this aspect to have Annie argue with the darkest part of herself, and I thought that, that was really, really well written. And they give us this great character just to have her be gone. Unless she's not dead and she's gonna come back.
True.
But then it makes her death in this season just even more anticlimactic. Like, you couldn't have just had her, like, maybe she rips her hand off so she can get the ring back, but then she still gets that's how she gets away. She has to like chop her hand off, or whatever the case could have been. Like, we could have gotten there where Annie could have gotten the wedding ring back, and for the shifter to get away, for us to use her in this, even intermittently in this final season, or if you let her loose so that maybe she can wreak havoc in this next season of Gen V.
Yeah, and I do like what you were saying, that like Annie was talking to like darkest part of herself, and quite honestly, because like the shapeshifter was able to take every knowledge, every memory, everything that she had of Annie as well, not just the appearance, but everything mentally as well. So like, you can't bullshit that. It's like everything that you have ever thought, it's right in front of you. So yeah, I think that's a great kind of recognizing that, and I think that was just, again, to your point, just great writing for the show. But again, anticlimactic about it.
And then we get Sage. She reappears, letting Homelander know that everything that has been happening has been a part of her plan. This makes sense because she's the genius, so it makes sense that she would plan for Homelander having a fit and kicking her out and having certain people play certain roles and how things are going to lay out. But it's interesting to see that if she's had all this planned out, what else, what is phase 2? Or like, she tells him, next time you listen to me, and he's like, next time, and then she mentions his phase 2. So like, clearly even her helping him is a small part of her bigger plan. So
right.
I wonder if that makes me wonder if she's going to be the bigger bad for next season, that even maybe Homelander has to contend with, because he, at some point, which is probably already happening, is that she is outsmarting him, and it's really her show that she's in her pieces that she's setting into place.
Yeah, and even Homelander now even trusts her even more because you can see his character was like, "You did all this for me."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, I did all this because I thought I could. Like, I wanted to see if I can do it, and I did." And so she's like, "No, don't thank me. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of exercise her brain a little bit."
Yeah.
I just love, like, at least as part of her character, she's just kind of just strolling in with the congratulations balloons, like, "We did it! Yay!" But yeah, I continue to love her character in this show, and I'm happy to see that kind of would make sense. Yeah, she is the smartest person in the world. Of course she wasn't going to tell Homelander everything because of the nature of who Homelander was, and he's just going to ruin things, which obviously under his control, we clearly saw that within the events of this episode. And then he's like, "Don't you worry about it. We have this all taken care of." And he's stressing for no reason about, like, "Oh, Newman's dead. Oh, she was never part of the plan anyway." I got contingencies on top of contingencies. So yeah, and then also that just sets the stage for kind of like a great cliffhanger. Some people were calling it like the Infinity War of a cliffhanger. I was like, okay, all right. So the bad guy, quote unquote, wins and all your heroes are taken. I get what you're saying, but like those are apples and oranges between comparisons.
Yeah,
but
you can't really compare them.
Yeah. But like I do think it was kind of cool that we got to, Homelander's now taking control. The Supes are now in charge of like not in charge of, but like are helping the police force, and a kind of a new world order. I believe the words was the new age of superheroes begins, and that just sounds terrifying, obviously. And then we have the boys one by one getting captured by other superheroes. We got a cameo from the Gen V Guardians of Godolkin, and so at the end of the day, they didn't really do much. I know the creators were said that like they were going to have a hand, and this was going to be leaning into season 2 of Gen V, and the events of Gen V season 1 were going to lean into The Boys season 4. I don't think the storylines really connected much at all, except for featuring those characters and making references throughout the season. But in a way, I'm okay with that, because for those who are watching both shows, you're not relying on watching one or the other, but as standalones, they still work in of itself. And like for all you care, those are just random characters that are helping Homelander, and that's all you really need to know if you don't want to watch Gen V. But Gen V obviously adds more context to what's going on. And then also we see a lot of big revelations for the boys in general, aside from Butcher here. We have Kimiko actually speaking when Frenchie was being taken. So I'm curious to see if she's going to be speaking for the entirety of season 5. Or if that was just an occasion where she pulled, and I saw this meme and I thought it was hilarious. You know, the Rugrats went to Paris when Chucky yells no at the altar.
Yeah.
That's I saw the meme of like him yelling no at the altar, and then Kimiko just yelling no as well when Frenchie was going away. Too good.
That's funny.
Too good. And so there was that, and then we also had Starlight being able to use her full powers and just kind of fly off. Something that we were teased at the end of season 3. Now we got to see, I guess she has her powers back at season 4 as Huey was being taken away as well. So like a lot of good moments for that. And also Frenchie and Kimiko, are now forming a relationship, which I feel like that's something that we've been kind of wanting for quite some time now, at least predicting that they would end up together. So kind of sad that they end up together in this episode, and yet now they're torn apart with their feelings. There was one other thing that I didn't really care for within. One other thing. Sorry, we Ashley took Temp V.
Yeah, but then we see no fruition.
She's turning in. She lost her hair. Yeah, she. Well, I guess that's just another tease for the season. They were gonna. There was a moment where in the show where Homelander said we're just gonna kill off people who know too much information. Ashley was one of them. She runs over, shoots herself with V, and then her head starts bubbling like the leader at the end of the Incredible Hulk, and that's it. That's all we get. So we don't know where she's gonna be. If she's gonna, find A-Train, because they were talking about leaving together. Who knows what that's going to be? But before I was going to talk about that, I was going to say that there was a problem I had with a little bit of like Annie 100% accusing Huey of like, oh, so you can't tell if it's not me or not. "Oh, you're sleeping. How many times did you sleep with this shapeshifter?" And I was like, "Really? That's
What are we doing here?
Yeah." It was like, "Oh, you decided you're gonna marry this person? You didn't know this was me?" And I was like, "I don't know. You got to give this guy a break." Now, I mean, let's not forget, a couple of episodes ago, he just lost his dad.
Yeah.
And then literally 2 episodes ago, he was almost he wasn't almost, he was sexually assaulted in the Web Weaver costume. So, like, let's give this guy a break, right? Like, I kind of feel bad for Huey this entire season because I feel like they didn't really know what to do with him. So half the season he was, kind of on the bedside of his dad, and then he's now roped into the situation, this crazy situation. And then he's just like, now just being accused for, just having sex what he thought it was his girlfriend. I don't know. Like, he's doing his best, right?
He's trying.
He's trying. And I feel like she quickly just turned it on him. And then also just very quickly was like, you're going to be tested for every disease known to man, and then leaves. And like, we're going to end it there. And he was happy about that. And I was like, all right, so if we were going to end this so quickly, why even bring it up?
Exactly. Like, what was the point of that?
Like, it's not like you need to fill for time.
Like, you just want to make her seem irrational, like.
Right. Yeah, I felt like that was a little bit unnecessary. So I think overall. Also, we also forgot that Homelander outed Newman on TV before she died. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a big moment at the show at the time. And then some other funny things that I like at the very beginning, where the January 6th.
Of course.
I guess, of course, right, of it all. And then as well as Training A Train was canceled. And they said that because for the show context, they canceled the movie because obviously A Train was a leak and they want to promote A Train on VOT. But they said that they canceled it because they wanted a tax write-off. And I was like, man, what a jab at Warner Brothers for that.
That's right. Yeah, I caught that little jab too. It's like, even though the movie's completed and already done.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, damn, that's cold. I love it. And that's what I love about this show as well. And then lastly, Soldier Boy. Homelander finds out that Soldier Boy lives at the post-credit scene.
I expected that.
So
I expected that to happen.
Which we knew that he was alive, right? We knew that. Yeah, the Homelander just found out. So now what he's going to do with Soldier Boy, if he's going to make him his puppet, or whatever he's going to do with that information, I guess we'll find out on season 5. And then also, Butcher is, I guess, doing all right and riding into the sunset with Kessler and inside of him. I think overall this was a pretty good finale.
Solid season finale, I think. And then I just think overall the Boys this season was great, and I think they are bringing us to a natural point to like this is the penultimate season, and it felt very much like a penultimate season where like all these things happen, and like this next season is going to be the fallout and the resolution of things that happened this season. So I mean it was fantastic season of television.
Yeah, and also I think, having Gen V as a companion for this show, we know that Gen V season 2 is going to be following the events of The Boys, so we get to see some insights on what happens shortly after The Boys season 4. And then, which I think will be interesting, is that if we have The Boys season 5, and then they decide to wrap up Gen V with a third season and kind of be like an epilogue to the events of The Boys season 5, I think that would be a good way to kind of cap off both shows on the train they've been going off so far, because I really don't want to see Gen V continue on any further too far after The Boys finale. So,
and they're kind of not. I think they said they're only going to do one more. I believe just because of Chance Perdomo's death.
Right. So yeah, I agree with you. I think The Boys season 4, a great season, a solid finale, and this definitely brings a lot of hype for me to want to get excited for season 5.
Agreed.
So now we go from The Boys to House of the Dragon. We're going to be talking about the last 2 episodes, episode 5 and 6, which was coming off the crazy episode 4 that was, deaths and dragon fighting, and like it was kind of building up to this high moment and now I feel like we got this climax, and now I feel like we're coming down from that as the next chapter of the story kind of slowly builds back up again. But let's talk about episode 5.
So episode 5, Regent, directed by Claire Kilner, written by Ty Mickle. This is the aftermath of the Battle of Rook's Rest. So Meleys was brought out to show success, but it does give an ill omen, to the people, because they see the Targaryens and the dragons primarily. They see them as gods.
Gods, yeah.
Even in episode 6, when they're mentioning the dragons, they speak of them as these godly beings, not just meat. Whereas you hear Hugh, the blacksmith, in the town square, when he sees Meleys' head being carted out, he goes, "Well, they're not gods; they're just meat." We get Aegon, who's all fucked up, showcasing all his burns. Like, you're literally seeing the armor having to be. You can hear it like being pulled from his skin. They're having to pry it off. I thought that was really cool because they that's one of the things from the book as well. Alicent talks to Sir Kristen, and he alludes to what happens at Rook Rest, but he does not tell her. He doesn't tell her. He just kind of alludes that Aemon was involved in Aegon's, demise. The small count. This is a really interesting moment in this episode is when the small council rejects Alicent as the Queen Regent, which is ironic because if they honored her, then they would prove that Rhaenyra's claim would be valid. And she realized she put herself in that position, and she has to yield to Aemon to be the Prince Regent. And I think the actor who plays Aemon perfectly executed his joy and attempt to conceal as he takes his seat, and then just starts firing off his plan like he's had it in his back pocket this whole time. And in that moment, he orders the gates to be closed so nobody can leave. That prevents Hugh from leaving. We get a moment where he's staring at the Iron Throne, and his sister comes up to him, asks him if it was worth it. And I don't remember. I don't think that he actually responds to her.
That wasn't his sister. I believe that was the Aegon's wife,
which is also his sister.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, I definitely missed that part of the detail. I was probably from season 1, but I did not catch that. I probably forgot about that little detail.
Yeah, Helena is also Helena. I think her name is also his sister.
Well, good to know, I guess.
Jace. We get Jace, who he exchanges Harrenhal for the Frey's allegiance. We'll see how Daemon is going to respond to that. Daemon tries to force fealty from I believe it's the Brackens. And they obviously turned him down, and he's almost put off about it. He's like, I didn't think they'd be so quick to die.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't end up killing. And that's the thing, is that they called him out on his bluff because they know that he needs them, so that he's not, even though he says he's gonna kill him, he's not gonna burn us because he needs us to fight for Rhaenyra's claim.
Yeah, he even said I need fighters. I don't need corpses.
Yeah, and I think this was and then the episode ends with Rhaenyra and Jace in the hall, and they're kind of like, we need dragon riders. It's like, well, let's look for bastards of Targaryen and Valyrian descent. And that's kind of it was just it was fine. It was, I really liked the episode because we need those moments to kind of come to terms with everything that happens in episode 4. So we need that come down to kind of lay out the playing field of everything that's happening. And I thought that was done well. I just didn't really care for how the episode ended. It's just we need dragon riders, and then they're looking at this whole room full of scrolls, and it's it's like, okay, yeah, the episode's over.
Yeah, and it honestly just felt like that. And we ran out of time. Sorry, guys. I guess to come back next week to find out the rest of that conversation. Because, that could have easily just been cut to the next scene type of conversation. Yes. It wasn't a big blow of a moment where it was we need dragon riders. What? and then just be done with it. It's hard to come off of a high like that. It definitely was like, I don't want to call it a weak episode, but it was just like uneventful.
Yes.
Like not much happened, but at the same time, you listed quite a bit happened. We got some thoughts of the small folk in the King's Landing. Like we got their opinion on the Dragon Head. We see Aemon now coming into power, and Alicent not being not resuming the duties, and Aemon now taking over on that. I feel like those are just necessary steps that we need to see in a show like this to then continue on to the bigger, more grander scale. So like not too much terrible, not a lot of things happen, but I feel like it was necessary. It's kind of like this. We got to keep the ball moving on certain things. And also another part I don't think you mentioned, but like the small folk of King's Landing, they got trapped with now Aemon under control. They're now unable to leave King's Landing. Yeah. And that means that the food was also not able to go through, which we see kind of play fold in the next episode. And also Corlys is now the hand of the queen. He accepted her offer once Rhaenyra was she the hand?
Who? Rhaenyra? No.
No? Okay, she was never the hand. Okay, so she never had a hand.
I don't remember who her hand was before, who the hand of the queen was before she gave it to Corlys.
Right. Okay. But now Corlys is, and also the interaction when Alicent was
it Rhaenys?
That's right. I meant to say Rhaenys. Yes.
Might have been Rhaenys, because it makes sense that for this episode for her to find a replacement for her hand. Right.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I meant to say Rhaenys. But yeah, I want to say that she was, but yeah, again, to your point, it would make sense. I do like, but there was a moment where Alicent was trying to say, "Hey, what was it? The King's course? What was the name? Like, in replacement of the King consort."
The King, Daemon's title, King Consort.
No. Sorry, Aemon's title,
Prince Regent.
Regent. So I guess Alicent was going to resume those duties like she did for King Viserys, but the king before, and Viserys. And they made a comment that said, "Woman can't lead in time of war." So, like, oh, you were doing fine because we were a time of peace, but we need someone who's a warrior and a fighter to now take the lead on this. And we don't think you're the right person for this. And that was obviously a clear jab at not only Alicent, but Rhaenyra as well. And so, yeah, then that came into play. And there's one other thing I want to... Oh, and then Daemon was like, I want to be king. Like, that fact has not changed with Daemon, that he's in supportive of Rhaenyra, but at the same time, he still wants to be king.
He wants it at his own end. Like, he wants to,
exactly.
He wants to be the king. I mean, he even has that moment. I don't remember which episode it is, where he's talking to the guy who's in his court, Strong. I don't remember which Strong he is.
Yeah.
Where he's, they're having this back and forth about his title, and he's like,
"Oh, that's right.
Like, you can just call me king." He's like, "Consort." He's like, well, it just seems like an unnecessary addition to the title. It's like, but it's really not, because you're not the king. You're just you're the queen's boo. Like, that's what that means.
You're the queen's boo. Which is like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you don't have to say it though. He's like, yeah, but I'm gonna,
because you are.
Because you are. And honestly, like, as we even talk about the next episode 6, just with Daemon in general, I feel like this is just this is my personal opinion. I don't really care for his storyline right now because I don't think it's offering anything for me. Like, he's just walking around seeing ghosts around Harrenhal.
It's like Luigi's Mansion.
Yes.
I've seen a bunch of those memes online, and like every time I see it, it's like, meanwhile in Harrenhal, and it's like a meme of like Luigi or somebody walking through a haunted house.
It's like, it's for the last 3 to 4 episodes, it's just been that way. Ever since he left, it's just been like, I want to take this over. Good, you took it over. Now I'm seeing ghosts. It's like, what? And I'm like, we get it. Like, how many times do I got to see a different version of, like, I understand where you want to be king. That's not, Simba wants that too, but like we get it. Thank you. And so like I want something more from him other than him seeing ghosts of people and him whining that he wants to be king. Which is why I think that Aemon should just kind of just fly in saying, "Hey, I want Harrenhal with his dragon," and then they're forced into a dragon fight. Like, I need him to do something, just kind of just walking around doing nothing, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but
I feel like they're setting us up for him to do much more in the following season. Maybe even not so much this season. Like, maybe we'll get a little bit. Like, maybe I think he'll maybe get one or two, maybe a moment in this season. But maybe what's going to come to pass is going to be in the next season. And we see them laying the seeds for a lot of things that are potentially going to be happening. Are you good on episode 5? Are you ready to move on to 6?
Yes.
Okay, so
I am, but I do agree with you that I think even episode 6, as you're about to discuss, definitely painting or setting the scene for a lot of different things that are going to be happening either toward the end of the season as well as season 3.
Agreed. So season 6 is titled Small Folk, directed by Andrzej Parek, written by Eileen Shim. So a lot of different things happen in this one. Aemon is summoned by Jason Lannister, which Aemon does not like because he is the Prince Regent, aka the king, in lack for better terms. So he responds by sending Sir Criston Cole, and then in this same moment he dismisses Alicent from the Small Council. Now, in this moment, it seemed like he was doing it to be callous, but it does. I think just the way that he operates in general, it seems like he's more of a calculated person. Where it's like you don't, and you mentioned it that they talked about in episode 5. It's like you serve your purpose. Like you don't need to be the queen because you ruled during a time of peace. Even more so, not only do you not need to be the queen, you don't need to be in this room while we're making decisions because you have no power here because I am the Prince Regent. And I think the cinematography in this scene, I just thought it was done really well. Like you get this wide shot of Aemon sitting at the table, but they show the whole table with his sword leaning and his mom sitting on the edge of the table, and he's kind of leaning back in the chair. Like it just showcasing like how into his role he is. That's a better way to say that. Just how comfortable he's become as the Prince Regent so quickly. So quickly, he's just fallen right into his role of what he needs to do and things that he needs to get done. So I thought as narratively and just with the cinematography, I thought this was laid out very well. We learned that Aegon is starting to come to, and he's being able to speak during certain points of the day. So Aemon, of course, feels that the necessity to go visit him and really questioning him about his memory. And Aegon tells him he remembers nothing. And I really, this scene I really liked, but I also really enjoyed the follow-up with Larys Strong and Aegon, where he tells him, like, he details to him, he's like, you may be physically deformed, but you're so much stronger now than you realize because you have your mind, and because you're physically disabled, that people are going to take you for granted. It's basically what he tells him, and that'll be their downfall, is them underestimating you as they underestimate me. So that tells me that when he answered Aemon and he said he didn't remember nothing, that means that he remembers everything. And that he knows his true intentions, and that he understands that he's somebody who he needs to watch out for. I mean, also when he's talking to Larys, he basically tells him to help him. It also says that Larys, he reminds me of Littlefinger from Game of Thrones.
Absolutely,
he's the person who's behind the scenes. That's really he's playing his own game. Like he's kind of planning things out and setting his stage, setting his pawns and his pieces where he needs to be so that he can be in the position of power that he wants to be in. And that's kind of where I'm getting for him. So we're kind of seeing Aegon and Larys kind of form this union. So planting that seed, that's probably going to come to fruition either at some point. He's probably going to help him escape at some point. We'll see. Corlys appoints Alan as his like shipmate. What is it exactly? He
like his first mate,
or
something.
Corliss appoints him first mate of his flagship, so he's his first mate on his ship. And then Adam, his brother, he feels like he's been kind of like left in the shadows. Something I didn't mention in the very beginning, Sir Stefan Darkland was burnt by Sea Smoke. Sea Smoke literally smoked him. Like he walked.
Poor.
He was so ready to take it on because they learned through his lineage that he is a bastard of a Targaryen princess. So they're seeing if he can ride it. And Sea Smoke clearly says, "Get the fuck off me."
Yeah. Sea Smoke said, "You are not my rider. Goodbye."
So Sea Smoke takes off. Yeah. So then that brings us back to Adam Valerian. Adam is going to be the first mate, where his brother, Adam, is we see he's pursued by Sea Smoke. Like literally, Sea Smoke chases him down. Now we don't see him ride Sea Smoke or see any of that interaction, but it is heavily implied because later on, when Rhaenyra and Mysaria have their moment when they're kissing at the end, and they're interrupted. They're interrupted to find out that Sea Smoke is seen in the sky, but that that Sea Smoke has a rider now, which causes Rhaenyra to go right out to go see what's going on.
Which is a way better ending to an episode than we got to go find
Dragon Riders.
That's it.
Something else.
But in this case, like, that she kind of just rides out to look for it. Like, hey, what, Dragon Rider? We got to get the fuck out of here. We got to find out who that is.
I think, and the only other thing that I noticed was the actual link to the small folk. Mysaria plans like she sends food in the name of Rhaenyra to the town folk just to kind of sow the dissent in King's Landing for people to rise up in her name. And then and obviously we see a lot of that. And, we see Hugh the blacksmith. He goes to see what's going on, and he just decks this guy and takes his carrots and leaves.
I think this episode was much stronger than the one we had before it. A lot of moving parts, a lot of interesting things were happening. You mentioned a lot of them, even before the scene where they see the food in the water. The small folk were like talking about their discomfort, how hungry they are in the streets. Like, we saw that building up. So then when all of a sudden, with Rhaenyra's flags, all this food and stuff to, help out them, it's like, oh, she still remembers us. She's still thinking of us. And that was all through the plan of Mysaria, right?
Mysaria? Yeah.
Mysaria, thank you. That was all her plan. And, Rhaenyra was like, yeah, let's do it. And came out to her favorably. And also that was a lead-in from the episode before where she was like, what you cannot do, let others do for you. There is more than one way to fight a war. And I think she was kind of planting the seed into this episode of like, you got to win the people over. And that is another form of winning the war. Because if the people are turning against the king now, then the other ramifications could happen that you didn't even plan for. And I think that was a good showcase of how that kind of went into play. And then also a part that I did not see coming was Rhaenyra kind of sharing that moment with Mysaria. I didn't even see that coming out of nowhere. Like, all of a sudden they're just kind of kissing and kind of.
I felt that. I felt it in the moment. Like when they started, like when she started telling her about how she was raped and like they had that embrace and just the way they're embracing, I was like, she gonna kiss her. I can feel it.
I can feel
give
it.
her a little smooch.
I'm curious if that has any ramifications or anything that's going to push forward with that moving forward. I guess we'll find out. Other parts in there. One was that Rhaenyra like bitch slapped that dude when he was like, "You're doing this wrong. And you see, I told you not to put that night with the rider because he was gonna get burned. And guess what? He got burned." And she just go, "Wow."
Yeah.
Right?
I'm sorry. Right? It's my fault for thinking that you don't have to fear me anymore.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, "Damn, what a line that was!" Like it's kind of funny because you're talking about how like episode 5. It was a little bit of a down moment for the show, but like even episode 6, to me, that was like a highlight of like, that's such a small part of this episode, but yet for me, it's something I remembered. I was like, a good moment, a character moment for Rhaenyra, and it's like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. And what was the other thing? Oh, that's right, Corlys, and like he named his first mate. That's his children.
Those are his bastard sons. Yes,
bastards. Yes, which would make sense that Adam would technically be a writer in that case because they didn't know about him, but he would also follow that descent. So yeah, I didn't think I pieced that together to this episode that those were his bastard children, and that's kind of what they've been talking about this entire time. And then there's another thing that happened. Yeah, the gift. Oh, Aemon wants Otto Hightower. That whole scene when Aemon was talking to Larys in the court, and he was like, Larys thought that Aemon was asking him to be the hand, and he goes, "No, I want you to go find Otto Hightower so he can be my hand. I want you to go find him." You toad, yeah. I was like, damn, man. Like, Aemon is starting to be a little bitch at this point. Like, he's getting mad with power at the moment. So much so that he, like, again, threatened Aegon. Is like, you're gonna stay down for a while. He even told the Grand Maester, is like, I hope he has a full recovery. I hope he feels comfortable. It looks like he's gonna be out for a while.
We don't need to worry
and so we don't need to worry about him. And then the other thing that what was the last thing? I think that was it. I feel like I'm missing one more. But yeah, I overall I think this was a it was a good episode. It was a pretty solid episode going into what's going to be the last 2 episodes of the season. I think, again, like, if anything, if episode 5 was more the aftermath of the big episode that was episode 4, then episode 6 is now laying the groundwork for 7 and 8, I believe. I feel like what we're getting. I honestly don't know what we're leading toward, to be honest with you. So I guess that's part of the mystery for me watching this show. But yeah, ultimately, I thought this was a really good episode. And one last thing I do want to kind of point out about Sir Christian Cole. He's still a little bitch.
Oh, he's the worst.
So, he's the worst. Yeah, I think that's worth mentioning. Almost every time we talk about House of Dragon, we guys got to let everyone know
he sucks.
Yeah, yeah. Sir Christian Cole report, still a little bitch. Because then when Alicent was talking to her brother about, like, oh, hey, how's my son? And, like, how are you doing? And kind of getting an update. And it's like, your son's good. I think you made the right call of sending him away and all that stuff. And then you got little bitch ass in the corner over here is like, oh, you're not going to see me? Oh, you're not going to... Where's my napkin? Yeah, where's my napkin? Where's my little handkerchief? Get out of here, Sir Corlys. Sir, not Corlys, sorry. Sir Christian Cole.
Nobody wants to have his babies.
Nobody
wants to have his kids.
Unbelievable. But yeah, I think I got everything that I wanted to mention with that episode. Yeah, I think it was a good episode, and I'm looking forward to the last 2 episodes there of the season. So anyway, with that, we got our news in, we got our Whatcha Watchin in, we got the boys, we got the House of Dragon. So now we're gonna be diving into our spoiler review of our foreign film of the month, which is the 2024 French film Under Paris. There's a shark in the water. Everybody get out. And apparently that is not a thing that anyone did in this movie.
Nobody listens.
Ernesto, I can feel your excitement right now that we're about to discuss this film. So tell the people, what were your thoughts on the movie?
Can I just tell you, I have so much to say about this movie. Like,
I can't wait to hear it.
It was okay. This is an action horror movie with obviously this is has a strong focus on climate control and climate change, which is very apparent. I mean, literally the beginning of the movie starts at the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which I didn't know was a real thing. This is a real place that exists. Here, I had to look it up. Let me get this up for you.
I also did not know this was a real place.
So the Great Garbage Patch, also Pacific Trash Vortex, is a garbage patch, a gyre of marine debris particles in central northern Pacific Ocean. With, here are the coordinates. The collection of plastic and floating trash originates from the Pacific Rim, including countries Asia, North America, and South America. Despite the common public perception of the patch existing as giant islands of floating garbage, its low density prevents detection by satellite imagery or even casual boaters or divers in this area. I mean, this is a huge area that apparently is just filled with trash. So,
Yeah.
not for nothing, if I didn't enjoy anything else about this movie, just the fact that I was put onto this, I think is interesting enough. I think.
Okay. We got a positive note.
Oh, that's definitely a positive, because I thought it was, because
Yeah.
when I'm watching the beginning of the movie, I thought it was just like this, you know, the over exaggeration of when they're trying to prove a point. It's like, no, this is no,
Right.
It's like no, sit down. This is a real place. This is a real thing.
Right.
The CGI wasn't that great. It really wasn't. Like in the beginning, when we're in the Great Garbage Patch.
Yeah, that was rough.
I mean, you're seeing like it was like early 2000s shark graphics. Like that shark is still cartoon. Like that is a cartoon shark in the water.
Also, when she was getting pulled deeper and deeper into the ocean, and then we got this super weird close up of like, clearly it was fully animated. That's what it felt like to me. And like she's screaming, and then we get like this close up of like the blood coming out of her ears because of the pressure that she gets deeper into the ocean. And literally when I saw this, I like I said in the beginning of this episode, I was like, this is not Jaws of Paris. I don't know who tricked me into thinking this was going to be a very sophisticated, grounded shark movie. This isn't. This is more of the Meg of Paris, not the Jaws of Paris.
I mean, you know, it's funny. I notated that too. It's funny because we get this moment of like her being not only like kind of pulled down. They made it seem like she was being dragged down like thousands of feet. Like this shark was just fucking taking her all the way down to the bottom. Like they made it seem like she was flying down the ocean, only to be released and then to come up. Like, wow, she swam up pretty fast, and then the slow mo of the blood coming out of her mouth and her ears. It's like, what are we doing? And it's like, under Paris.
Yeah, I was like, to your point, I was like, wow, we are really going for it.
And I was
this
like,
episode,
so that's gonna be her character. It never comes up ever again at any point of this movie about her having this traumatic thing happen to her. Like it's never brought her. They talk about her fiance and her family dying briefly, but even that was like a lot that it almost didn't need to happen. Like, why did we need to spend time with her swimming in the ocean, seeing her dead husband's hand cartoonishly floating in the water? Like, what the hell was what was the point of that?
Well, I guess they just established that this incident happened in like 5 years prior, and she lost her crew when she was diving, and that was essentially it. And then 5 years later, or however long, many years later, I think it was 5, it could have been longer, the shark comes back to terrorize the people of Paris.
How the fuck did it make it all the way to Paris? Sorry, I'm just kidding. It made me so, because then they should have met. Oh, where did Lilith travel from? And it from the Great Patch, and it's like halfway across the world to exactly where this lady is. Like it almost seemed like they alluded that this shark and this woman had some kind of connection, especially from like this moment in the beginning of the movie they had together. But they never expanded on that at all, at all whatsoever. So then we're just assuming that climate change is making she's had to shift territories and that things are moving around because of climate change. So, you know, we also get that there's supposed to be some triathlon or some kind of swim that's supposed to be happening in these rivers. They're worried about the shark that's gonna start terrorizing people that's swimming throughout the city. And the mayor's like, and it's really funny that they're talking about that and like almost like talking about the Olympics, because just recently in the news, the mayor had to go on and tell that the water is safe for everybody to swim in. And we get the exact same scenario in this movie, almost ironically exactly how is this happening in real life. So
also, the Olympics are in Paris this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like all this, like that's to me, like if out of anything, that's the funniest part about this whole movie is the relation, the real life correlation it has to actual events happening in the world right now.
And also, I guess there's also some ties to Jaws because there was the local mayor was like, you can swim in the beaches. It's the summer.
Yes.
It's okay. And then obviously there is a Jaws. There is a shark attack in the water and, led people to fear. In this case, it was not the midway point of the movie. This was toward the end of the movie where this swim triathlon marathon was happening, and kind of our climax, so to speak, on this. But yeah, I guess in some ways that's where your similar kind of storylines kind of meet.
Yeah, so then they get this lady to join the team, and then we've got these
teenagers
who are trying to help. Help fix the world and want to get Lilith back to her home habitat. It leads them to this catacombs where basically we get this massacre scene because everybody's like,
yes,
let's go help the sharks. So then all these people go down there, and obviously it turns out exactly how you think it does, and shark just starts eating people. And then we find out that there's more sharks, and also due to climate change, that these mako sharks have turned into a new type of shark that can produce their own offspring asexually. So they don't need. So that means all these sharks are just going to start popping out babies. There's just going to be baby sharks everywhere.
Wait, hold on. That's what happened?
Yeah,
I missed that part completely. I thought just more sharks were coming up. Also, I didn't even put together that even the main shark came into this area, this location, because of climate change. I kind of assumed, but I didn't think it was a concrete. Yeah, that's how that shark got here, because it was part of the movie where I was like, I don't know. I kind of want to know why that shark is there in the first place. But yeah, I guess climate change would fix that answer. Help me with that answer.
They alluded to climate change being the reason for everything. Why this shark has erratic behavior is because the water and the climate is different. Their food source has changed, so now they're acting more erratically. I mean, they found a way to make it work. They made it justifiable. But see, they learned that after they kill that shark, when they cut it open, that now these sharks can adapt to fresh water. And Lilith is gonna be pregnant through parthenogenesis, parthenogenesis is a natural form of asexual reproduction in which growth and development of an embryo can occur directly from an egg without need for fertilization. Because I believe that they cut open the shark that they killed, one of the sharks that they killed,
yes, and
there was a bunch of baby sharks in the belly. There was a bunch of baby sharks, and so Lilith is giving birth to a bunch of offspring, and that's why she's so much bigger, because she's, in those catacombs were her nest, and that's why, she went and just started eating everybody.
Yeah, and honestly, I'll give this movie somewhat some credit here, because we were following one of those main, kind of those characters, kind of the younger characters that kind of convinced the other woman to kind of join the fray here, kind of, sort of. And then she just, based off of hey, we're doing this experiment, we're going to get her home, all this stuff. And she is the first person to die. That shark came up out of the water and literally consumed her. And that was the start of the bloodbath that was here. And I was just so confused that all these people are somewhat safe on the railing or the little sidewalk that they have under the tunnels. And with all the chaos that's happening, they just somehow just keep falling into the water and then immediately just being eaten. And then as well as you had some of the other people that's part of the police force also died in that scene as well. And I'm literally watching this and this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
All of this is just crazy.
I was Matt, what are you making me watch?
I was misled. But yeah, I just go on with what you were saying.
Then we get to it's all leading up to this triathlon after the people are massacred in the catacombs. Lilith and her,
which they try to keep a secret, by the way.
Lilith, I don't remember what is her name, the main character. What is her main?
Sophia.
Sophia.
Yeah.
Sophia and her boo, the cop boo, they go up to the mayor.
Idol.
Yep. They go to the mayor and they're trying to, hey, you need to cancel this. And as you mentioned, mayor's like, it's fine. You know how much money I put into this triathlon, what this is going to do for our city, yada, yada, yada. So then we get to the triathlon where people are in the water and they're swimming, and it obviously leads to this another massacre event. And apparently there's these mortars that are these shells that are within the river.
That's right.
So during this fight, the shark, I guess, hits one of these, and it causes like this massive chain reaction of explosions. The mayor ends up getting, either she gets flooded or she dies somehow, but it sets off these shells. And then I feel like once again we got a hint of climate change, because the waters are dirty. Nobody's cleaning up all the trash out of there. So that's what happens. You leave random trash in there. Shit like this is bound to happen. And it just kind of showcases that, Paris goes underwater and Lilith is still alive. So whatever babies she has left, she's going to give birth, and it's going to, cause this chaos within Paris of now they have to deal with these sharks that live in their waters all the time. So I mean, the movie was okay. I just feel like they really pushed the climate change. They were able to write a lot of the elements into it in a creative way, but I don't know. I felt like I wanted more. I guess I shouldn't have expected more. It should have been exactly what I expected.
I mean, honestly, as you were describing it, there were some elements I didn't even pick up on, and therefore you painted a better picture of the movie than the movie I saw, just by you explaining a few things to me. Because I probably missed about half of this point, because I think I just kind of lost interest in some points because of how ridiculous this movie ended up turning into. Also, there was a point where they were like diving and trying to shoot or kind of forced like an explosion of the shark underwater. As the triathlon was happening, they were trying to to get rid of the problem.
Yeah, seems safe.
But at the same time, even if you didn't get rid of the main shark, Lilith, you still had all the other sharks to worry about. So obviously they were just going after the main one. And then there was a point where they thought they took care of her with the explosion, and then she didn't, and then more people died. And then there was a goofy scene where the shark literally tops the boat over and like just kind of brings it up.
Yeah, she's so smart. She waits, and she just came up full force right underneath the boat. It's like, oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
And then also like our main two leads, after all that happened and like the boat is now turned over and the sharks on their way to start getting the swimmers in the triathlon, and they're like, oh, we got to go help them, and then they swim. I was like, there is no way you are swimming faster than that shark.
Yeah, get out of here.
And obviously it took them a while to even get there in the first place. I just thought it was ridiculous. I thought at least try to flip open the boat first before you just start swimming. But maybe it was too beyond repair. I don't know. But yeah, I just thought to me, it was also just a strange way to end the movie as well. And I guess climate change is more of a better ending for me. It's like, this is the cause of all this. And now Paris is underwater, and now you have all these sharks roaming all over the place. And I just thought it was like a very, like, in a way, kind of like morbid ending that I kind of wasn't expecting, because like, I guess we can assume if there isn't a sequel, which I can definitely see a movie like this getting a sequel. But like, I don't know if what does that mean for our main characters? They're probably just dead at this point, right? I'm assuming that's what they're alluding to. Like, they're kind of stranded. There's no way they're getting out. All the sharks are circling them, and then end of movie, roll credits. That seems to be the end of the movie right there. Yeah, I just thought it was a very strange way. I don't think I was expecting it. I think I was more expecting a resolution, but I guess to the eyes of the shark won. Game over. That's the movie. So the eyes of the shark, it was a happy ending for the shark. If that's what the shark wanted, I don't know. I just feel like it just kills people for no reason. I get all the murder and all the blood that was happening in this movie was just to add to the ridiculousness of what this movie was. And I don't think I was expecting it to be that ridiculous. I think I expected a little bit more grounded. At least that's what it was perceived to be. And also like the reception that I saw it was getting. I feel like I was kind of misled, because there's no way I guess maybe I just didn't watch the trailer either, but it almost seemed like this was a more grounded story than it actually was, between the reviews and kind of the brief trailer that I saw. Because I believe it felt like it was more grounded, less kind of wacky in a way. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I really don't have much to say about this movie, based off, like, I mean, it's pretty, like, you explained the entire movie right then and there, and I think that was kind of a clean cut. Like, yeah, that's kind of what happened. So with that, we'll just quickly move over to our final thoughts.
I mean, overall, I didn't really care for the movie. I do think that one aspect I did enjoy was their length of how they were able to incorporate climate change and actually give us some information, like the Great Garbage Patch. That's something small, but that's really interesting that I fucking knew nothing about. So I thought, if you're able, even though it's wrapped up in this wacky disaster movie, like, you were able to give me, I was able to get something from that. So not for nothing, it's not a total loss, but it was able to give me something. So, but even saying that, like, narratively wise, like, that was something it gave me, but narratively wise, everything else was just kind of lackluster and it was very surface level. Not once we didn't explore what happened with her and her husband and how that was affecting her, or the fact that she got her ears depressurized, or there was like this weird unknown connection between her and the shark. There was just a lot of things that were just left unanswered, and like, oh, okay, like, I guess that just, it is what it is. It was just a very, like, certain things they focused on to be very deep, and everything else was just literally surface level.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, we really didn't learn anything about these characters, and they were just fuel for the shark. They were just the story for the shark to eventually get killed by.
Agreed, yeah.
Like, it didn't matter anything you learn about this character, the shark is gonna kill him, and that was it. It was like, we have this threat. Here's the problem. And the shark took care of its problem because other people were trying to kill the shark, and the shark's like, I'm going to kill you. And then that's what happened. So like I said, the shark won in the end of this movie. So good for the shark. This was a shark's movie. I think we were looking at this wrongly the entire time. The shark is being disturbed. The people are the problem.
Yeah, shark's the main character.
Shark's definitely the main character. But what's your rating on it?
I'm going to go 2 stars.
2 stars? Okay. Yeah, I think I was going to be a little bit more generous because there is an entertainment factor that, like, yes, it was lackluster, but I found it somewhat entertaining in its ridiculousness. So I think I was going to give it like 2.5. But
I can meet you at the 2.5.
2.5? You want? Well, let's settle this right now. You want to lean on the 2 or the 2.5? Because,
well, if you're asking me, I was going to the 2.5 because I like you. But I'm going to give it, but if you want me to give my unbiased, I don't like Matt opinion, definitely, it's definitely a 2.
A 2. Yeah, I think also because I think at least part of me, like, I think I agree with you on the 2, but then when you said all the ties with climate change, like, okay, maybe the 0.5. Like, because to your point, like, there was a lot of
the climate change stuff gave me the 2.
Gave me the 2.
That's what gave it a 2. Otherwise, it'd be a 1.5.
That's what gave it a 2. Yeah, it was definitely it's a sillier movie than I expected. I guess 2.5. It's definitely not. It's not a high bar. I guess we're both of us we're not getting there at all. But yeah, it's Under Paris, shark movie, kind of a little ridiculous. It's on Netflix. Yeah, go check it out if you want to turn your brain off for about 2 hours.
Good way to put it.
I think the runtime was a little bit long as well. The runtime was fine. It was 1 hour and 44, so roughly around 90 minutes, not counting the trailer, not counting the credits.
Could have been an easy 90. Could have been
give it an easy 90
minutes. It would have been fine.
So I guess ultimately, if you're a fan of the Meg, then this is your movie.
Which I like, but I did not like this.
Yeah.
That much.
Yeah, because the story was stupid in this movie. Ultimately. Like, it didn't really make any sense. And if you like the Meg but only care about when the shark ate people, then this is your movie.
That's fair.
Yes. This also fell under the same vein of, like, the Meg 2. But the Meg 2 was a little bit more ridiculous than this movie. I feel like this movie was a little more grounded. The Meg 2, they started throwing out Krakens or whatever. Yeah, but anyway, there you go. That's our spoiler review on Under Paris. And that is all the show we have for you guys this week. Ernesto, tell the people what we are reviewing next week.
I think we're gonna be. I wish I'd have had the music. Like, we are gonna be reviewing Twisters. Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, Anthony Ramos. I'm really excited for this.
Yes,
we're gonna have a special guest next week. I'm excited. There's a lot to talk about with this film, a lot to appreciate. It dominated its opening weekend at the box office.
yes,
I think it cleared over 80 million
It did
for the opening weekend. I mean, we don't expect it to next weekend with Deadpool coming out, but I think it had a solid opening. This is definitely one to check out. Like, I'm kind of hyping it a little bit now. I'm kind of giving because I've already seen the film, but
well, I was about to say, like, I think this is a rare chance that we're talking about this movie that we're going to be reviewing next week, and a movie that we've already seen. And the reason why we're kind of holding back a little bit because we have a special guest on, and we really want this person to come on the show, so we're delaying our review on it just so we can have a really good conversation about it. So if all things pan out, we're going to have this person on the show. But since we have this rare opportunity that we've both seen the movie already, kind of give like a little tease, like just like a one little tease that makes people want to tune into the next episode.
This is a movie that should be seen in the theaters, and I think it's better than the original.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. See, my tease was come back next week because I saw this movie in 40X.
Oh.
So you're going to come back and hear my experience.
Oh, I definitely want to hear that.
Hear my experience about this movie in 40X. And I will say this. I went to go see this movie at 9:30 a.m. because all the other showings throughout the day was packed. Yeah. Like, it was available, but I was sitting front row. Like, the 9:30 a.m. showing gave me one seat in the back that I could even take. And so that's where I sat, and I was not the only person to think that you got to experience Twisters in 40X. So come back next week to hear our review. Hopefully we got that special guest in there. And to your point, I am so excited for this for next week's episode because I think we're going to have a great conversation. One would say it will be a whirlwind of conversation. Thank you.
I see what you did there.
Taking those puns by storm. And it continues. Yes. But anyway, if you want more from us, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterboxd page at Box Office Binger, and our Threads and Instagram page at Box Office_Bingers. The movie fun continues on our social media channels, so be sure, if you're not already, to go follow them because we got some great stuff. If you want some information like what's new to stream, we tell you what's that every Friday, as well as we have our movie show on Mondays, as well as, like, again, our entertainment news and our reviews. It's all there on our social media channels, so be sure to check those out when you have a chance or right now. Like, you can pause or you're done with this episode, just go and just click on one of those follow buttons and we'll be appreciative of it. But yeah, I am so stoked for next week and also the next two episodes. We got Twisters, and at the time of this recording, Deadpool and Wolverine's not out yet, but I have so much hype around that. So the next 2 weeks, next two episodes we have lined up are going to be so good, and I can't wait to have this discussion. Absolutely. But yeah, so thank you everyone for listening and watching. We really do appreciate it. Come back next week for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
Ernesto Santos. See ya.